Hey there, guys. Introducing Kirill. I forgot your last name. I'm sorry. But
Kirill, Chepizhko.
Chepizhko. Chepizhko? How do you pronounce it? I'm sorry, man.
I, I ask people not to pronounce it.
All right.
Not
Everyone
to.
knows. Everyone. But yeah, man, I've been checking out your work and being a fan of your work for a while. I mean, you always we kind of always replied to each other and checked each other's work out and things like that, and always seen you. You kind of for me, always been kind of lurking around and checking out things, and it's always cool to see that. So, um, but yeah, we were just talking that what you lost 4 terabytes of work.
Yeah, it's a huge lesson from life. Saying first of all, back up, and second, like I was saying, like don't hold on to your past projects so much, and like don't rely on them.
Mm,
It has been a push to say to myself like let's look at this as a um, what's like the tipping point in your uh, personal work, I guess,
yeah,
and scratch everything that you've done before. Time to learn new stuff. Time to make more, more cool shit.
yeah, yeah.
And what I've been working on.
Kind of like a bit of a fire up your ass kind of thing, or on your ass.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's definitely. I I mean, at least I choose to look at this as um, something that empowers me to do better, rather than like looking at this as a loss.
yeah, yeah. So generally, what's how type of outlook? What would you find yourself so attached to, going back to your work? And
Like if I had to restore right now, and like what would I save?
I guess maybe what would you say? What is it like? Does it? I guess I can imagine I'm trying to put myself in the same situation where I'll lose my work and I'll be like, oh shit, I feel a bit. It might be like a breakup,
Yeah, yeah.
you
And in this case, I want it to be like clean, like no photos together, like nothing like that. I don't want to look back. So I got divorced to my previous work basically.
That's an awesome analogy, man. Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, just like anytime you do that, you're like gotta look forward.
Reinvent.
But I mostly miss my all the tax documents and shit like that.
Oh,
Just-
the tech.
yeah, just like stuff you can never get back, like written thought and things I was like working on. Oh my god, like probably a terabyte of like references and shit. But by now they all have like they all live in my head now, right?
You learn it.
I think I maybe it was you talking about it. Maybe I heard it somewhere else that about building the visual library,
Mm,
and literally once like you go over something, you just remember it, and you don't really come back to the references. You can always Google it. So
yeah.
I miss that. I miss the references a lot. They were organized and stuff.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
I don't miss any of the personal work uh, because I mean I can always look at it like on ArtStation or whatnot, and I rarely ever looked at it.
Mm,
So, just because I wasn't never using it, I feel like I didn't even lose it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they say you remember everything you see. That's
Hmm.
what they. I mean, it's there. It's somewhere up here. It's just
What was that movie with about taking a pill and it made him smarter? Limitless.
limitless. Yeah,
Yeah, so he was like able to tap into his memory, right, and recall everything that he has ever seen,
yeah.
and learn quick and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I like to treat it like this, but with the only twist that in reality, stuff that you like the memory process, how we memorize things, as far as I understand, and nobody really knows, right? But
Mm,
from what I was like listening to podcasts and listening to people talk about it, like neuroscience, they say that we pack it, right? Like we don't remember it as it is because it's a tool. Memory utilizes this like it's like archives the data,
mm,
and then when you need to recall it, it brings it up and unpacks, and there's some data loss in the process. So when you make a memory, you only memorize it from the emotional point of view. It's like an impression of what happened rather than actually what happened. And then when you unpack it later, it's also an emotional recall. So it's completely distorted
Mm.
and so like if we talk about facts, like let's say going to the court and like some witness recalling stuff, right? It's always emotional connection.
Yeah.
But when we talk about references, it actually like plays uh, like on the good side for you because you memorize the impression of that like hard surface reference or like a robot or whatever a mechanism.
Mm.
So you don't remember that literally, but you just have like this general idea and abstraction of
Mm.
how it looked or how it worked. And
Yeah.
so I feel like it's a benefit for you
Mm.
because when you recall it, you're gonna be like you're not gonna bring it up literally.
Yeah.
You're gonna distort it.
That's really
Uh,
cool. Where did
but
you hear about
I don't remember who was the source, but this is like hours of listening to Joe Rogan's guests and stuff like that.
that? Yeah. I listen to a lot of stuff too.
Uh, yeah, basically any neuroscientists like they have this general understanding of it. But it's super cool. Like
Mm.
I have been hugely into um, like the science aspect of art lately. I
Mm.
feel like it's really connected to what we do.
Yeah.
And if we go deeper, and it's what I'm trying to learn and like have a better understanding of the mechanisms,
Mm.
um, I feel like it can help us um, like have that push, like
Yeah.
be more creative,
Yeah. Yeah.
be more efficient.
Yeah. So, I mean, are you studying a lot of? Do you look into a lot of your mindset around things now? Like, you're diving deep and like, why do I even look at like the way I do of something that I'm making? Like, what am I doing here? Like, are you doing that now?
Definitely. I'm trying to. Well, it. I think it's part of my like uh, neurotic personality or whatever that I tend to deconstruct things, and I think it shows in my work as well,
Mm.
where I like to take things apart. I like to show how they work,
Mm.
and I feel like it comes from personal life, but and personal experience, and then it finds a voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, now it's sharing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like it finds a voice, like that stuff finds a voice through my art.
Yeah.
You can see like I'm always trying to explain or deconstruct or find out how things work, and I've been doing that with my approach to understanding how my brain works
Yeah.
and how just in general neuroscience works and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's super helpful uh, because the more you learn about that, the more you can give back to the, I guess, to the audience through your art.
Yeah.
There, there are always some idea like that I'm trying to push.
Yeah. So, like, what inspired you to do this stuff? Like, I mean, is this a real breakdown or your breakdown of a controller?
This is my breakdown. So originally, I don't know if you can look it up. The idea comes from having just your run of the mill like Game Boy, right?
Yeah.
uh, just the one that was handheld. And I took the general shape and I wanted to, reinvent it a little bit.
Mm.
And so after the general shape, like when looking at this specifically,
Mm.
I had to look up a couple of controllers, a couple of like circuit boards, motherboards, like stuff like that from different areas. And when I work on this, I piece it together. So there is no particular motherboard like this. There's no of like the vibration mechanism like that in the back. it's all like pieced together from different references.
Yeah.
But my goal is always to make it look believable,
Mm.
make it look like it works. Um, and actually, if you scroll up to the main image, um, so, I talked about this with like my friends who we like talk on the daily
Mm.
about, but I used this trick on this image where I didn't really model a lot of the circuitry.
Okay.
The only things that are modeled here, which I think just would be interesting to know,
Mm.
are the ones that are like popping more like the golden parts that are the upper layer.
Mm.
Um, but there's like two or three layers beneath that that are plain, that are semi-transparent. So
Mm.
you can see like the layering of the conduction. What's it like?
Okay.
Basically the conducting lines, they go deeper, like several layers, right? Like
I,
so this one, yeah, this one is modeled,
yep.
but to the left, like where they are a little more faded, like going underneath and intersecting with each other,
Like,
those are like several layers of what I just photoshopped and used like opacity mask.
so like these
Uh,
little tiny ones.
yep, those everything behind it, and
Cool.
like especially like in the top where you can see that the letters are covering, yeah, they cover some of the lines. So the letters are on one layer, but whatever's beneath those letters, like underneath, it's just an image, like it's not modeled.
So
I
you
had
went in.
to
Yeah.
like I had to fake it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, like everything that you just like pointed out right there,
Yeah.
it's all just a PNG image,
Yeah.
transparency, and like several layers, making it look like there's like more to it. I've only spent maybe a week on this altogether, like from
That's cool.
I think pure time between modeling and rendering. I think rendering
Mm.
took longer.
It's such a unique, dude. It's such a unique thing. Like no one's doing this stuff. It's really unique to see you do it.
um, so when I started doing this, I saw a couple of like on Instagram. I follow like a lot of engineering accounts and
Yeah.
people showing real stuff. And that's when the idea came to me. But as I was modeling this, I don't remember exactly the name of the account. Like, forgive me, but uh, I saw this dude who was doing the same thing as I was doing, like same time.
Mm.
He was also doing the circuit boards. I'm
Okay.
like, I hope this becomes a trend, like, and catches up. Because
Mm.
I mean, yeah, we in concept art, I've never seen like too many images that show the electronic part.
Yeah.
Everybody is infatuated with like these joints and stuff, and making it look operational, and everything is very mechanical. But in reality, most of it is just really fine electronic stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot less mechanical.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
also it's like super. It would be super. First of all, it was easy to fake, right? But also it would be at least production ready as well, because I
Mm.
know that it was done through PNGs and stuff. So like I'd love to see more of that in games where um, we don't see a lot of breakdowns, or we don't see a character in the game disassembling the gun, or like making it work, or like putting together a gun or something. Or it doesn't have to be a gun. Like, I don't know why a gun, but like a robot, whatever, like some
Yeah.
technology. So I thought it would be cool to see.
Mm. It's like hard surface porn. Is that the
It is,
yeah.
dude. It's what I do,
Yeah.
or at least I hope it's something like, if people say that I do hard surface porn, like that's a huge compliment to me.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think you do. You're focusing on this. You're focusing on the smaller world of hard surface in a weird way, like this macro, like as if you got one of those small cameras and you've gone in and zoomed in, and it's like,
mhm.
hey, that's what makes everything tick. I mean, pardon the pun here, but since it's a watch, but yeah, like you have to be you're super observant in this different way. Like, so your attention to detail is in like this, I'm sure you're looking at the bigger detail, but you're like zooming right in.
I mean, you definitely. I feel like this is like hard surface shaming. Let's coin a term, because like I do zoom in,
Yeah.
and I actually don't think it's that like it's good to do. I
Oh,
feel
this.
like yeah, just like the bevels on bevels on bevels on bevels like that stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like it's actually better to zoom out well, yeah, dude, like the super close up. Of course, like this is how close I zoom in when I work on it, and then I
Yeah.
never render it, and nobody ever sees that,
But
which is
it's
the
art.
problem.
Like if you think about it, you could, I don't know, you know how we always think, okay, how do we make money from our art? We don't know
Mhm.
until you do something. And then like I was
Mhm.
saying, because I had a mentorship class today, and I was saying like you once you do one idea, it grows into another, just like roots of a plant.
Mhm.
You know, and this is what you're doing. You don't know what you're going to get from it, but you just do it because you have passion to do it, and that
Right.
and something will come from it. Like, don't feel guilty because then you don't get to
Mhm.
explore it because you feel guilty. You're like, I shouldn't be exploring this, and you think I should be doing what whoever tells me what to do or whatever company wants this work, and who cares? Do it for you, man. And that's what you're just doing, you, and that's what's great. So yeah, no, don't feel
For
guilty.
sure. Um, and you're absolutely right. Like the ideas, I mean, you can look at them as live organisms or whatnot. They evolve, and if you stifle that like at the early stage, it's never gonna get anywhere, right? Like the evolutionary chain, you're not letting it evolve to its full potential.
Mm,
So I used to look at every piece that I produce. I used to look at it as the final product, and it gave me a lot of anxiety. It gave me like this feeling that I need to perfect it. I need to make it look like the best work I've ever done.
mm,
And in a way, that's a good push to
yeah.
produce like quality models.
Mm,
But at the same time, it's the same thing that kind of burns you out, I feel. So when I kind of started to shift my look at this and my perspective, looking at every piece that I produce as this is just going to be another piece that takes me to that, you know, it's not the end of the evolution. It's just a tiny step in the evolution of my general style, ideas of where I want this to go. So when I look at this as just another one, I mean, I hate to sound like DJ Khaled, but it's kind of what it is, just another one,
yeah.
and I that's what's helping me iterate and try and like not stick to certain like thematics,
Mm,
like topics in
yeah.
work. Like you can see, like I'm doing like speakers, watches, and then I don't know whatnot, like more sci-fi stuff. I like to explore into like minimal and more artsy. And I'm definitely probably like till I die, I'm gonna be looking for my style and what kind of things I'd like to model most.
Mm.
Um,
I reckon
but I think it helps.
I think you're going to do product at some point, like on a big scale.
Like what?
I don't know, man. Like because if you're doing this realistic rendering, imagine a company who wants a product from you and be like, well, can you do something so real that we can pre-visualize it to the point that we can really see it be real? And
Oh,
then,
I mean, I've done that. I've
yeah,
done like the past several years, first from freelance and later like I started my own company that I market as industrial design.
yeah,
And like I haven't even like put out the website yet. I was just like contacting. It's all like coming through Instagram basically.
yeah,
But people do come to me saying, uh, "We don't even need you to model. Like we have the model. Can you visualize it and make it look real?"
mm,
And I've done like a range, but they're all definitely industrial design, just real life products.
yeah,
Um,
cool.
with the exception for this one. This one was more about concept but this did get 3D printed, which was cool to
That
see.
is cool. It brings back old childhood memories of playing with trains. But
I used to have those too.
oh
I
yeah,
wish I had.
Oh, they'll be worth a mint now because they used to all be made of metal and like really high end old
Mhm.
train things. But this is a really cool this one. Like when you came up, like are you doing any sketching, any type of?
Um, so for this one, I did because this was like a bigger scale project where I only, I basically only do sketching when the client wants it. If I do it for myself, I, I mean, I gotta say, like, I should be doing more sketching, but in reality, I think I just trained myself to go through iterations,
Hmm.
and I go through these iterations within the same model basically until
Yeah,
I perfect it. I I do lose a lot, and not every beginning sees, not every model um, sees the like even 50% progress.
yeah,
Um, so like I can just see that this model has no potential no matter how much I iterate with it, and I'll just leave it alone.
yeah,
Uh, but other models, I'm kind of like have this mentality, which I don't think it's right, but who cares? Uh, I just go at it until it starts to look good. And so no, all the iterations within the same like canvas basically.
yeah.
Um, I don't know. That's that's not very like popular among artists, right? Like people usually sketch before they model.
No, dude. Like it's all just whatever you want. Let's be honest. Like
Mhm.
I've only just started drawing. Like I used to draw when I was little, and then
Mhm.
stopped drawing. Then I've started drawing. What I've noticed is actually it complements one another, right? They're transferable, believe it or not. So I mean,
Oh no, for sure. I mean, I did do like some sketching already after I started 3D modeling, and I was blown away how much it actually helped. Like if somebody's listening who is a 2D artist and they're trying to like be better at understanding volume and perspective and all of that, just fucking get into 3D for a little bit and just play around with cubes and spheres,
yeah,
and your brain will click,
mm,
and you will have that depth in on paper.
yeah, transferable. But that's I
Mhm.
mean, you know how we feel guilty about like we should have certain fundamentals and certain things. It's just you do what the hell do whatever you feel, right? Like go with your natural gut feeling. Just do it. Don't have any preconception of anything. Just go into it. I mean, a lot of people have just done art, and if you want to learn art from somebody, go study under them. Be ask them if they can offer you something that can help you. So I think it's like you always hear about the old French. I think it's like the French artists. They go under somebody and they learn under them, and so. But we've got
Like
the
a
internet these
apprenticeship,
days. What was that?
like a apprenticeship.
Yeah, apprenticeship. Yeah, like and doing that and just learning, pretty much mentorship. So, um, but you can watch like YouTube videos and learn from that too. And but yeah, like this. It's an interesting like project. I think you're the only guy I'm like really see kind of doing this type of stuff. And I think like, are you getting clients kind of asking for this unique type of work?
Um, for what do you mean by like unique
Like,
work, like shape language wise,
yeah,
or like the
like
object subject of work?
I guess a bit of everything because you don't have that, like, you don't have that real. It's not like I call it sci-fi wank factor. Um,
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure how else to explain it.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
You're grounding things in more of a reality. I can see the kind of you almost like and you almost got like an engineering, more of this really grounded engineering feel to you. Would you say that?
I would. I actually appropriated a term from Disney, who coined this term, Imagineering,
Cool.
and I'm stealing that into our industry for 3D because that's exactly what it is. I
Yeah.
look at a lot of mechanical shit and then I imagine it without looking at it, right? And I'm trying to recall, and all of this is like my impression of engineering.
Yeah.
I definitely try to avoid doing detail for the sake of detail, and I try to avoid mm, putting in detail that doesn't make sense to me. It just so happens that the more you look in like into engineering and how things work and why it works like that, it's I feel like switching to industrial design, product design was a byproduct of me looking too deep into engineering. Because at first I was just curious, but then when I realized I needed to understand it deeper. And once I started to understand it deeper, now like I'm only interested in that. I'm not so much interested in like strictly sci-fi. But this year, and I think maybe it started last year, I'm finally like coming around full circle on this, where I have been doing this like this Imagineering for a while, and I feel like I've built maybe my language a little bit, some sort of vision, like understanding of mechanical engineering. And now I started to be more interested in like fine art and and just art in general. So
Mm.
now I am way more interested in, and maybe it's gonna show through my like future work, I hope.
Mm.
I'm trying to now bring back, um, like now I'm gonna work on ideas. Like I feel like this was a huge prerequisite for me to go through this part of life where I need to figure out the engineering and give myself enough, I don't know, like credibility within myself and like, I don't even know, like just having enough knowledge to now, um, now I want to actually come up with like more um, pieces that actually have something to say. Like I feel like a lot of my previous work had not too much to say. It was more surgical. It was more mechanical.
Mm.
Like for the lack of a better word, like it was actually mechanical, right? Like it was just um, digesting all of the information that I got and just simply putting it out. But so very production like.
Mm.
Um, but I feel like I could do better and I can do more. And I also now I have something to say. When I started looking into more into math, more into just I don't know. I'm super interested in all kinds of metaphysics and astrophysics
That's good.
and
Yeah.
just how our world is built and how it works,
Mm.
and you know like just space time like whatnot, like watching a lot of those podcasts, and the my understanding of the world has shifted a little bit, and I guess I became a bit more open-minded to why I started to understand why art is the way it is.
Yeah.
um, and because before I didn't have that like a good grasp on it, I guess.
Mm.
So now my goal is to now I feel like I have something to say,
Yeah.
and this 4 terabyte loss
Mm.
is just couldn't have come at a better time.
Well, I
Uh,
mean, they say
like
nothing. Well, nothing is good or bad. It's just how you look at it, and you're looking at the good.
exactly.
Yeah, you're looking at the good. So,
Um, so yeah, now I have been sitting on this theory. Um, I don't know. Have you heard of this term called autopoiesis? It's it. I'm not sure if it's pronounced like that, but
mm.
it's basically uh, it says that creativity and like and stuff like that comes through, or I guess real art comes through. It's an iterative process, so it comes through iteration with our intelligence applied to it.
Yeah,
So like art cannot exist without you looking at it through the intelligence lens.
Mm.
I think it's us, or like our conscious, I guess, or subconscious, that turns things into art, right? Like, what's the distinction between a rock and a person who looks at a rock and says this is art?
Mm.
Um, so I've been looking into like where it came from, and I like I'm a huge fan of architecture. That's like my meta reference for a lot of stuff. Zaha Hadid is my one of my favorite architectures, and her and her partner Patrick Schumacher, I think, they've been working on parametric stuff and just computer aided design and stuff like that, and they got their ideas from this Russian dude who painted the Black Square, Kazimir Malevich. He was the painter who started suprematism as the art genre.
So
Um,
what's it called again? Super.
Suprematism, from like supreme suprematism.
Su-
It basically, like, to in simple terms, it means meaning over form.
Yeah.
So they didn't like to put a lot of thought into form, and they wanted to put like more meaning into their paintings. That's why the Black Square from Malevich is his like top work,
Mm.
just because of all of the meaning that he put into it.
Mm.
So this is like my personal journey. This is not even 101. This is not even prerequisite. This is like ancient history now, what
Mm.
supremacism is. But so, like, if you look at this, it looks very disjointed, and it looks deconstructivism also got their roots from here, I think. Um, but so you can see Zaha Hadid is your middle screen, far right, the black and white image. Right now it's like this row, but like, mm, where was it? It just moved.
Um,
Um, but nevertheless, yeah. So bottom row, second from the right.
Zaha Hadid, this guy.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can click and see.
Yeah. So she looked at suprematism,
Yeah.
and she saw how she can apply that and transform that and let it have this natural evolution into her own style.
Mm.
Um, and so, like, the abstraction of this is, if you look at this image of like this disjointed geometric pieces, you can kind of imagine that you're looking at a like architectural plan from the top.
Mm.
And that's sort of how it worked. It's not always from the top, but it's this level of abstraction where, it's more about, I don't even know what it's more about, but like, that she definitely saw something in it, and her and her partner evolved it into their own style.
Mm.
And what I'm trying to it's like a thesis that I'm trying to work on. What I'm trying to do is learn from this and see how, because the main idea here is meaning over form, right? Like, this is why it's suprematism.
Yeah.
This is kind of like what's happening in my life now. We're like searching for more meat. Yeah, there you go. See, like, it's
Mm.
applied to architecture, but like in this abstract way. Um, so I feel like it came in this idea came to me where I am personally looking for more meaning in my life, right? And like trying to figure out like who we are and like what the fuck is a brain, and
Mm.
where all ideas are coming from and stuff like that.
Mm.
And so I want to do less mechanical, less uh, meaningful. I mean, like, less real world, more abstract, more ideas behind what I do.
Yeah.
That's why I got fond of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I get you. I've been doing that too. More meaning behind stuff, like hidden meanings. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because art is about emotion, memory is about emotion, like making meaningful memories.
Hmm.
Um, that's clearly, to me, that's clearly like the path to influence people's minds.
Yeah.
When you do have something to say, when there is a message, um, been looking a lot at breakdowns of movies and just like what's the meaning behind this, like what did they want to say.
Mm.
There's always so many layers, like a lot more than the director wanted to say,
Mm.
and it's usually about the same stuff, like relationship, like the fall of God and how like humans killed God, right? Like the Deus ex machina,
Yeah.
um, stuff like that. It's always this collection of archetypes, I guess, and collection of uh, thoughts that we reiterate through ages,
Mm.
and we just tell different stories, but it's all about the same shit.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel like I'm kind of getting myself ready to tap into that,
Mm.
and I want to be able to um, tell those stories and what I found through my art.
Yeah.
But I mean, to me, that's just I'll have to find that path. I have like uh, let me give you an example. The most recent stuff that like I want to work on, I haven't even started modeling, but it's something that I'm thinking about.
Mm.
Um, and I hope that I should model this quicker than this podcast comes out.
Okay. What do you
Uh,
mean by that? You should model it quicker. What does that mean?
so I mean, it's only gonna take like what a couple of days to model, so I'll be okay.
Yeah.
But so like I've been fond of watches. I guess again, if we start to psychoanalyze me, it's for a reason that I probably worry about time,
Mm.
just like in the back of my mind.
Mm.
Um, and I'm really fond of it. And also because it's like this super tiny mechanisms and there's a lot going on, and I have this drive to figure it out.
Mm.
After watching a lot of talks on space time and like how time works and all of that, I just had this idea about modeling a watch that doesn't look like a conventional watch. Like
That's cool.
so far I've been modeling pretty conventional looking watches, but now my next idea is um, I want to be able to present this idea that I learned about space-time from somewhere else. Now I want to put it into this concept, into this design, and hopefully it looks different.
Yeah, that's really
So yeah,
cool.
I was actually able to articulate this without spoiling what I want to do, so that's good. I'm going to keep it at that.
Yeah. Now keep it secret, man. I mean, even you just telling me you want to model a watch without making it look like a watch is like, oh, you're revealing something here. So like, that seems that seems like a cool idea. I definitely you want. That's what I like to do. Is like break modern conventions,
Yeah,
make people think different, right? That's how you stir up emotion. Yeah.
right. And you know how like I feel like people don't like things remixed, but there's no escape from that, right? Like, no matter what you do, it's going to be a remix of something previously done.
Mm.
But in this sense, at least I want a fresh take.
Mm.
It's something that I've been trying to um, push, like in my work, but also it's something that I would love to see in the world.
Mm.
Like I have a huge issue with uh, I feel like the general direction of the industry is leaning heavily on implementation and not enough on creativity.
Mm.
Um, I feel like our digital space right now like is dominated by software and like how to make this particular thing and how to make this more realistic or like RTX or whatever. I'm yet to see at least one tool that's going to help you be more creative with the idea rather than with the implementation of that idea. And I totally understand it might be difficult and like I mean, but why not? Why not explore into that? Like with the help of AI right now and like neural networks and what give you.
Mm.
I'm sure there's like potential to give us the instrument to become more creative And this is how like I tie this up with autopoiesis stuff, where iterative approach using intelligent filter on it, right?
Mm.
Like you are the intelligent filter that looks at iterations and chooses what moves forward in those iterations.
Mm.
Like you're kind of like playing God with picking what what gets to evolve further.
Yeah.
So AI neural network, I feel like it doesn't need to be smart. It just needs to provide us with enough iterations where we can just sit and sift through millions of variations of these robot arms and guns and whatever, and just pick, I like this, give me more of that.
Mm.
Like I like those scopes, and like I like those triggers or whatever. But like, but let me see 100 variants of that mixed with I don't know, put in another input from I don't know, like something else, right? Like
Yeah.
something else more visual. So I really don't see anybody working in that direction.
Well, I mean, we have the Neuralink coming out soon, right? So, I think it's gonna, I think it's gonna like pop your head open and everything's gonna be exposed. Like everything, we're gonna like, hey, we can interface with a computer. If we can
Yeah.
interface with a computer, we can model. Like we can do things much quicker. Imagine if we had to deal with topology, but we just think about it instead of all the clicks. Like it's like,
That would be amazing.
yeah, I think it's
But
gonna
well, like,
next level.
would you be the first to jump on it, like if it was ready to go, like
I'm gonna do it.
Apple Store?
Look, it's like me not using a PC. I have to use a PC. I need to go. I need to move. I remember when I first got like a digital, not digital, like a probably, yeah, it had an analog phone for a while, and you get like a proper digital phone with like screen and all that. And I didn't want to
Right.
upgrade because I didn't want to be addicted to it. And I think like I do it now. Like I am like looking at it. I'm like, why am I looking at this? And I chuck it away. Like I'm just like I'm looking at it for longer than 5 minutes. I'm just scrolling. Nah, chuck it away. And so like I didn't want
Yeah.
to fall into that trap, and you do. But I think you have to. I think when we do have this technology, I think we're all going to get stuck in it. That's the problem.
Yeah. I'm afraid so.
Yeah.
I hope they're. I mean, we're definitely pretty far away from it, from using it like a phone.
Yeah.
But I think he will, like Musk was talking about it, that in 10 to 15 years we wouldn't have to talk, like we would just communicate telepathically, which first of all is freaky, but also imagine, I mean, that's just going to be like an image of you with your eyes scrolling like your phone screen, like
Yeah.
you're going to get lost in that maze, right? Like that's going to be some serious not brain damage, but psychological damage, I think.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
you could get high on it because it rewards your dopamine. You be
exactly.
so we might have like even more severe levels of depression. Just scrolling on Instagram can be depressing, right?
But well, yeah,
Yeah.
I have definitely been there. But also, I have this feeling that I don't know how soon, but we will have to, like everything that's happening, like this depression from technology, it's all happening to your physical body, right?
Yeah.
We get mesmerized by social, we get mesmerized by this potential of AI helping us out and like just enjoying whatever. I feel like in some centuries we're probably gonna merge, like
Yeah. It's,
the singularity with the AI is coming. I feel like I don't know when, right? But it's just no matter how hard we're gonna want to keep our bodies, I don't think we will be able to,
yeah.
because it's just gonna be like atavism, like something we need to drop
Mm.
to be able to move forward.
You're right.
I mean, Joe Rogan also talks about this, about like humanity being a cocoon for this AI butterfly, right? Like AI is going to evolve out of us, and we are this branch on the evolution tree that's just going to go sideways, and probably die off or coexist, because I mean we coexist with like ancestor, like common ancestors and
Yeah.
whatnot,
Yeah.
primates. But and then AI is going to be this main street, like highway, right? Going further, evolving further.
Mm.
And the reason uh, I don't have a problem with this is um, my biggest childhood dream was like star travel, right? Like everybody, like being able to see what do we have, like, you know, 3 4 galaxies away, or like next galaxy, whatever. But it sounds like we will never be able to do that because mass prevents us from traveling at the speed of light, and the only way to explore a galaxy is speed of light. What doesn't have mass is data.
Yeah.
And so if we become data, if we become just this intelligence and we merge with it, like our consciousness merges with it, then we can explore. We will not be able to explore in the meat suit.
Mm.
We need to detach.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's why I'm hopeful.
Yeah. No, that's
So
really cool.
I know once it's safe, I would probably be the one to jump it.
Yeah, I don't want to do it straight away. No, just hold off.
Well, no, you do it, and then you're like, and you find out it's some sort of like mental hell, you
Yeah.
know, some crazy loops that make you go insane for
Huh.
eternity or something.
Yeah.
Like I definitely don't want to do that. Like too many movies about this.
Yeah. No, can I hold that thought? I'm just going
Deliveries.
to food delivery. But yeah, no, I agree with you with the AI and stuff, or us merging with AI. Because that's what I was just thinking when you mentioned it. I actually didn't think about that. Like, I don't think we can ever get to other stars without losing the meat suit, pretty much, which is crazy.
Yeah,
We're
it's
gonna,
unfortunate, but it's what happens. Like,
yeah,
it, think about it this way: when we were fish, which we were at some point, we needed to ditch the fish mentality to get out of that medium, like that. I don't know, not medium. What's the word? The water, basically, that element,
yeah,
right? To cross the water air barrier, we needed to learn how to breathe, evolve, like, you know, be better, which meant transforming physically to such a degree like it's unimaginable, like,
mm,
you know, completely different.
yeah,
So but still meet, because we were still limited by the unfortunate, like, you know, the fact that everything has this physical limit to it.
mm,
But evolving consciousness, I think, was the ultimate thing to evolve. It's like learning how to learn.
mm,
uh, like if you get my analogy, right? Like evolving consciousness is consciousness is the tool that allows us to evolve to that ultra step, like into no meat, just not no ghost. I mean, no shell, just the ghost, right?
yeah, yeah. Like Ghost in the Shell.
Usually, people who don't believe in that, they usually say no ghost, just a shell,
No,
which I think is very sad. I mean, I hope it's not like that.
what do you mean? You're saying we are just a shell? Like,
I hope. I mean, I hope we're not. I hope the ghost and the shell, right? Like,
yeah,
I hope we're not just the shell. I hope there is ghost, but like, the consciousness is the ghost. Like, I'm not saying there's a soul,
yeah.
but I hope that that consciousness can leave the shell
Well,
and
yeah,
travel.
we're really different. I mean, other animals don't have a sense of consciousness like we do. Do they? We're the only.
I mean, people argue about that. The way I like, so like, maybe this will go on a tangent of like a little kooky sounding,
No, God,
but
I love it. I love it.
uh, I've heard this idea that, or like if you listen to Terence McKenna or like Alan Watts, who has appropriated Eastern culture to like for the Western mind, I guess. They like to talk a lot about like consciousness being just one general thing, and we're in a like a single manifestation of that consciousness, right?
Mm,
So if you just let's suppose it's that, um, it feels like you can find that consciousness in everything,
mm,
but the expression of that consciousness is limited by the physical um, circumstance of where that consciousness is.
mm,
So if it manifests through or manifests through a human body, we're able to speak, see, think, create, what give you. If it manifests through a cat, it has this limited capabilities of expressing itself because the that like the cats didn't evolve to have certain parts of the brain and whatnot, right? So I'm not saying like we're like
look, I
being puppeteered, but
I think maybe animals are just lower level consciousness, and they say we have, stoned ape theory, right? I'm not sure if you've ever
yeah,
ever done any tripping before, but dude, like
I did. Yeah, that's why we're talking about this. Yeah.
I've done tripping before, and like I've realized that everyone has an energy, and you can feel people's energy, and they have like I don't know, it's like an aura to them, and like
Hmm.
when you go and when you do these things, you realize like the construct of money is ridiculous, right? You realize
Right.
like this is ridiculous. What are we doing? And so like these things you open up, and so like the stone ape theory is that the apes kept eating the mushrooms or like the whatever they did, and it opened up their level of consciousness. Because when you do have a trip, dude, you have a certain level of consciousness, and this is why I can see people, in the '60s and like all that time, they started opening up their level of awareness,
Mhm.
and it's like it opens you up to this weird range of emotions, and until you've done it, you actually aren't living. As weird as it
Right.
sounds.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And and the changes are it feels like it's not a temporary effect, like it's a long lasting change, like forever,
Mm.
because it makes you basically like break through to a new level of understanding, right?
Once you're
Um,
aware, you never can be unaware. Yeah.
right. Yeah, you cannot unknow things, and well, I don't know if you can forget that.
No,
That's
it's
interesting.
so powerful.
I don't think
Yeah.
so.
I think you do it every
Um,
now and again to get like that because you get something. It's like they say when you watch a movie again and again, you get something new from it. And so no matter
all
what,
the time.
yeah, and you always see your level of consciousness because when you watch a movie, you're at a different level of consciousness to where you were a year ago. And you're like, I did not see that. It's like one movie I love, I just rewatched is like Fight Club. And like you keep seeing more levels and layers and layers and layers because the people who made the movies are on a different level of consciousness to you. So like that's like doing this when you and so when people do these have like when people go through rough experiences really early in life, they're at a different type of awareness and a different level. And so when you do these things, this is why people do the ayahuasca because I think they get emotionally stuck in themselves and they're like, what is going on in my life? What am I doing? And why do I feel this way? And they have to just like pop their brain open and look, hey, be aware of these things. And yeah, it's
uh, Level of awareness is like an instrument, right? Like it helps you understand. Um, like if we talk about this example with movies, they were created by somebody with different and a lot of experience,
mm,
and you're just not able to understand what they're saying unless you have the capability, unless you have that tool or instrument to decode what they're saying.
mm,
So it's actually, yeah, I would definitely recommend going back and rewatching certain movies at different stages of life
mm,
because you when you don't see it, it means you're just not uh, you're not decoding it right
yeah,
when you don't understand it.
yeah,
Um, it's crazy. I was gonna say about the consciousness. There's this, you know how like we have these different areas of our brain that is responsible for like we're basically most of our brain is like responsible for feet, eyes, hands, like all the sensory stuff.
mm,
And then the I guess cerebral cortex is responsible for this autonomous work. So all of the external sensory shit is mapped onto this tiny part of the brain,
Mm.
and that signal is then processed autonomously. It's like when we fall asleep, all of the external sensors turn off, right? And we just live in that different reality, different level of consciousness.
Mm.
So, point is, I've been when your external sensors are overloaded with information such as phone, like any kind of data, you're always like entangled in something's happening. There's always external stimuli, right? Like hitting us. There's no time. It's like a sensory overload. Too much noise to signal ratio, right? Like too much signal or too much noise, not enough signal. I started dosing my time with social media
Oh,
to bring down the level of disturbance from the outside because I couldn't hear myself,
yeah,
right? Like I was only um, I guess getting the noise and I couldn't hear what I have to say.
it's true. Yeah.
So
Mm.
I started all these like all the good ideas started to come only when like there's complete silence. When I'm not looking at stuff, when I'm not listening, I stopped listening to music as much as I used to.
Mm.
Like I would listen when it's like drone work, like repetitive, some like automation type of stuff, with just modeling.
Yeah.
Of course, I would. But when I'm trying to be creative, I figured out I need complete silence because that voice somehow is coming from within. It's rarely coming from the outside.
Yeah.
Like so I feel like if as an artist, if your voice is coming to you from the outside, I don't really think that that's your voice.
Influence. It's been influenced. Like, so when I,
It's influence.
yeah, I try and sit down to like neutral music if I'm going to sit down and do something where it's not like here or there. It's just background.
Hmm.
Like, it's not emoting me either way. It's not making me think. There's no lyrics to it, pretty much. It's
It's
not
like
like,
meditation. Like it needs to get me into a state of flow,
yeah.
and I zone out of that music. It just helps me. It's an instrument to get me into certain like mind states,
Mm.
which is, by the way, speaking about time, have you noticed like when you're in this flow of creating work, you don't time doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like you're not able, you don't know how much time has passed if you're not like what looking at the clock,
Mm.
and you don't perceive it whatsoever.
Mm.
Just like in a dream, right? Like when you're in, you don't know. The lack of experience of time is what's very intriguing for me,
Mm.
and I have kind of like made it a point for me to do that as much as possible, because like the more you look at the clock, the slower the time will be. Like you'll be like, oh shit, it's been a minute.
Mm.
You ever been stuck at work that you don't like?
Yeah.
Like it's
Every
like that.
every 10 minutes.
It's like it's been fucking 3 hours, and in reality it's been like a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so experiencing time is painful, and I feel like it's really tied into just you only experience time when you're focusing on this external stimulus,
Mm.
right? But once you kind of tune in into this inner voice and you go into the state of flow and you become creative, just like what happens with the dreams, you stop experiencing time and you're happy, and you're not, there's no anxiety,
Mm.
like there's, it's just this perfect state in which you want to be forever.
Yeah.
And that's my push to be more like to be more creative rather than more mechanical.
Yeah. Just expressing you, getting you out. That's what I tell people. Just express you, like emotionally. You got to just put it out there. Like I think people are afraid. Look, I think everyone's afraid to express themselves emotionally because we feel that people will judge us.
The social pressure, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, but then you don't. It's like a singer who never sings their own songs, but they're really good at singing. I mean, they could probably make
Like
their own songs up, but they don't choose to. Perhaps for whatever reason, they're just hiding away. And I mean, we've all got like I think we're all pretty. When you put your mind to it, I think they say you could do music if you put your mind to it, but you feel like, well, I couldn't do music because I'm not doing it. But I mean, you probably could, because if you understand art, like music is layers. So,
Yes.
I mean, we're not tied to one thing. They say we become more than one thing in our lives. To believe that, see, this is why you're trying to do something, well, you are doing something new, right? You're transitioning. And you know,
Mhm.
like, I think someone had a friend said to me the other day, it's like, oh, what are you going to do in the next 10 years? I'm not going to be pushing polys around. So like, this is, like,
Right.
and they're like, what? I'm like, dude, next 10 years, I'm not pushing polys around. I'll be doing something else. Let's be
Yeah,
realistic.
like you've done your time with polys, right? Like you want to do, you're interested in something else.
Yeah. And it's just like, you're not one thing. You're really not one thing. You can do a multitude of things. Because I think you see people who have like they have 3 or 4 careers in their life. You got
Mhm.
you got so many years on this planet. And if you just believe you can do one thing, geez, you're gonna be miserable, right? We're not working
I
ants.
think it's some sort of tunnel vision where you're really limiting yourself to, I'm gonna like pick this one thing and be really good at it till I die. I mean, that's kind of good, but it needs to be the right thing to pick.
Yeah.
Like it cannot be,
Well,
sorting packages at Amazon.
yeah,
And
exactly.
no offense to anybody who does that.
But
Great,
even
thank you for all the packages.
they're transitioning. We just look at them as packages at Amazon, but they're transitioning. So something I did on ArtStation is like, and I think Facebook and everything else, I took my thing that I'm whatever artist, because I'm like, I'm not defined by this thing, and
Uh,
like, I don't want to be whatever. You come to me and get it done. I'm not like, what am I like? I'll define the role when you come to me. You know, if you want me to do lead work, I'm doing lead work, right? If you want me to
right.
direct, I'll direct. Like who, like you? Why am I defining myself when it's ridiculous to go? I'm a character artist. I'm a senior character artist. Okay, when do you move away from that? Like, who decides that for you? You decide that. Really, it's your choice to whatever you become. No one's the fact that someone's like, I hate the fact that we define ourselves. It's like, you ever think about your own name? Does your own name really define who you are? I mean, you change your name on the internet too.
Right. Yeah. Because you're trying to get into this different character, different persona,
Mm.
because you associate yourself more with that now than like with your own name per se.
Yeah.
And like you said, like all those like the senior character artists, whatnot, though the label, I mean, like yeah, like labeling whatever, but it's all from the production point of view. It's never from the art point of view. Like there's no like senior painter of like oils or whatever. There's no such thing.
Yeah.
Like so yeah, I definitely don't want to be stuck doing same thing forever.
Mm.
Especially for me, that revelation came when I discovered. So like backstory to this is I hated math like growing up.
Oh, me too.
Didn't like it, couldn't get into it. I blamed the teacher in high school
Mm.
because like if she was able to articulate everything, like I mean it's hard when you have like 30 kids in the same classroom, right? Like and explaining it to everybody is hard, but
Mm.
that's probably the reason I didn't get it. But now I'm getting into math more and I'm trying to educate myself. And turns out, because I'm a visual person, I understand math visually a lot better than abstract numbers. Like just that part of my brain that deals with abstractions is not that great.
Okay. Yeah.
So I realized math is, I mean, of course, it's a universal language,
Mm.
and it's what helps us tie, let's say, music and visual art.
Mm.
Uh, Design principles are essentially the same because they both rely on ratios,
Mm.
on math like pi, um, Fibonacci sequences, like all of that, right? Like it's not rules, but it's just something that we found something in common that can be described with math language.
Mm.
And so you're absolutely right. If you're an artist and you think that you like could never write music, that's not true.
Mm.
Also, there's like tons of people who do both, right? Or three, four things at a time.
Yeah.
They write music, and I used to look at them and I was like, why can't you just pick one thing? Like that's just weird. But then I realized, wow, like
Yeah.
the underlying principle of all of this is the same. So why not use it where you find yourself and can apply yourself?
Yeah. One thing
Um,
opens you up for another thing. So you
mhm.
open up your level of consciousness. You do music.
Do you have anything like that? Like, or have you found that you're good at something that's you learned it from art but applied it somewhere else?
No, but I think I can sing in a weird way. Like I can make it. I can hold a note. Like I don't.
Right.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about it. Like I can do good voices. Like I can go around and just make voices and things like that. And I think if I really got into it, I could like rhyme pretty well. I've done it sometimes. I'm like, how the hell did I do that? I managed to rhyme all these words, and they was like just flow, like. And I was like, wow, I just did that, and it was like, it's because I was in a flow state. Like I got into it in
Right.
certain instances. So, um, but yeah,
Do you feel like visual art has rhymes visually?
visual art has rhymes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in what context? Like when we look at visual art, are you saying it's rhyme?
Like so there's music audio rhyme, right?
Mm,
Like you say a word and it rhymes with a different word. Do
mm.
you think visual uh,
Oh,
language has components that are like rhymes? Because music has rhythm,
mm.
ratios, um, visuals has rhythm and ratios. I wonder if there's like if details rhyme. I'm pretty sure they do.
Yeah, I think so. If we break down design, like I was talking my class today about the Fibonacci sequence, and people are like, "Do you use it?" I'm like, "No, not really. I don't use it, but I understand it in a different way." Like,
At
yeah,
least not consciously you don't use it,
yeah,
but subconsciously you might.
I'm using it subconsciously. I actually don't really understand what it. Well, now I understand more of it, but I always think, well, the Fibonacci sequence, it comes from nature and it comes from like us, the ratios of our
Mhm.
face and like the fingers and all that stuff. And like I think, well, I'm pretty sure I know that instinctually. And so when I
Mhm.
design stuff, I'm using that. And like going back to the rhyming and the rhythm and stuff, I guess if you had like one detail here that you would want it to rhyme with another detail, but then have it flow. So like it's like a
Mhm.
flow, and then your eye is tracing over it instead of like
Right.
detail in. It's like, oh, this is a really abrupt detail. This is something that doesn't really flow with this and has no correlation to that. So I think detailing in the sense that there's a style guide, and so you don't want to be. I always limit myself with my style guides. I'm like, maybe there's about four different style um, possibilities within the one bulk of the style that makes up the whole design language, and everything has to work in harmony. I'll be like, okay,
Right.
this design language is too abrupt for this design. I will trade it and I'll use it for something else, and I'll be more subtle. So then it works with this other detail and it works with it. So you're right. There's a rhythm to how I'm thinking about it, and I'm having it rhyme with this detail because I do that all the time. I'm like, no, I can't have this. Get rid of it.
Yeah.
It's not for this design. It's for another design. So you're exactly
Just
right.
like in the song, it would just stand out that the previous line didn't rhyme to the next line.
You're right,
Just
man.
like why would you
Yeah,
do that?
yeah. I think you're spot on. I never really thought about that, to be honest. I
I
do it all.
mean, well, this came out in this conversation. I've never thought about this
You
before,
do. We're
but
doing. This is like breakthroughs here.
right.
I mean,
Hopefully it helps somebody understand like why some visuals don't work because they just don't. Like
yeah,
it either works or it doesn't.
yeah.
Curiously enough, you don't have to understand the method and the process to actually know what's going on. Like
Mm,
somehow understanding is it has been proven mathematically. I can't cite it, this unfortunately, but Professor Penrose was talking about it. If somebody wants to
mm,
look it up, um, the consciousness and the this word understanding
mm,
is not tied into this breakdown and explanation and digesting this stuff. So
mm.
you can have an understanding without knowing how it works.
Yeah,
So like it's totally makes sense that you wouldn't know exactly how Fibonacci sequence works. I also don't know like all the details, but I can use it and I can understand how to apply it.
mm,
So something clicks. Something clicks. No, I don't know how to explain that. And
mm,
I feel like in teaching, like what you're doing with mentorship, like I really um, like. what you're doing because like I have the same mindset.
Mm.
It helps me understand better. I really enjoy when I see that like in the eye of a student that it clicked and you see that he started to understand. I feel like it's rarely about like what is the brush or what is the method,
Yeah.
what is the trick. It's almost like let's do this until it clicks
Mm.
and for you. And for some people, it will click next week. For some people, it will click in 3 years. It's just however long it takes for you personally, because we're limited by our biochemistry, our like precursors for understanding this particular subject.
Mm.
Not everybody is equal, unfortunately, no matter how much this idea is being pushed around.
Yeah.
Um, it's just you. It will take however long it will take. Like let's say if you run a course and you know if this course says you know be able to do this and that in 3 weeks,
Mm.
most of the people might be able to because this is how you're gauging it, right? And this is how you're making the prediction of how many people will understand it.
Mm.
But for a lot of other people this may take 3 months. And
Mm.
I feel like this is the problem with the education right now, that we just need to give people time
Mm.
and be patient with them and be with them until it just happens, until
Yeah.
they understand it.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's a certain level of consciousness, and what you're saying is like, if you're sitting there and like browsing on your phone, you're kind of like you're feeding your brain. So everything that you do, if you feed it, like if you fed it like if you're looking at creatures and monsters all the time, you're probably going to want to do creatures and monsters. Like you're feeding it that,
Mhm.
you're like subliminally feeding it. And so if you're feeding it a certain level of consciousness, this is why it's really good to read books, but then also it's really good to take away those things. And I think when you sit, you know, like what's the saying that a man that can like man has a problem sitting with themselves. Like what's the saying? I think it's a Stoic philosophy.
Mhm.
A man that can't sit with himself can't like it's a term, it's a thing that if you actually can't, like what you were saying is like you take no music, nothing, because if you can sit with yourself, you can listen to yourself, and then you can see where that level of
Mhm.
consciousness opens up. Because believe it or not, people actually can't sit with themselves. They always have to have their phone with them. They always have to have a friend with them, or they have to like you need to just be like, if you can't be alone for like an hour or even 2 or 3 or 4 hours all by yourself, dude, we got some problems. We really do. Yeah.
Well, they're hooked on stimulation, and it actually is a physical. Uh, it has a physical base to it, right? Like the external stimuli, you get those hormones working, like dopamine, whatever will give you like whatever you get from social media or from just any external stimulus.
Mm.
You get chemically attached to it,
Mm.
so you want more and more, so there's nothing that comes from within, I guess.
Mm.
But another point about this, which I really like, I just heard this phrase today, and I'm afraid I'm butchering it, but the essence is our um, like our dreams and like our models of the future, our prediction of the future, it's always just a remix of our past experience. We cannot predict or we cannot make a model of the future that will be disassociated from our past.
Mm.
Whatever dream you have of owning an expensive car or living in a mansion, it's like a remix of something you've seen in the past
Mm.
and you turn that into your dream. You will never dream about something you have never seen.
Yeah.
So in this sense, and it's always like twisted and gets you know, you can small past experience can turn it into this giant monster in the future because your brain has, you know, inflated that. um, so I think it's important to actually um, take a break and sit with yourself like you're saying,
Yeah. Yeah.
to
Definitely.
dig into this hidden potential and come up and let the other voices speak,
Mm.
where it's less about your current environment It's less about your past experiences. It's hopefully more about something, meaningful.
Mm. All right, I just want to pour it. All right, let's see what happens. Damn, it's laying, it's laying. All right, you're saying, yeah, just being in a room by yourself, right? And you certain things become aware to you. Like you didn't think,
Tune into different stuff. Like you're able to hear those smaller voices. I'm not saying I'm hearing voices in my head. Like, don't get me wrong.
we all have voices, dude. We all have voices in our head. That,
Yeah, at least one. We all have at least one. It's suspicious when you have more than one.
yeah, like voices in the sense that your emotions and your feelings and stresses.
Right.
That's probably the
Right.
wrong word. You are right. It's the wrong word. We have a voice. Yes, we have a voice in our head. So,
But yes, I strive to be less of a processor
mm,
and more of a creator.
mm,
I'd like to think that I can create out of thin air.
mm,
It's still going to be heavily influenced by everything around me, but hopefully not in my immediate environment.
mm,
That's my problem with the less skillful remixes and copies of stuff. Like, I'm sure you've seen your stuff copied, and like it's never a pleasant experience
mm.
because you just feel like you misrepresenting what I had to say. Like, that's my
Yeah,
general take on this.
yeah.
Like, let me say what I want to say. Like,
Mm,
don't speak for me, right? Like, that's how I see it.
mm,
Uh, and and we're bound to do that by being influenced, remixing stuff we know. But hopefully, this ratio of old to good is somewhat valuable,
mm.
because when it's just old remix, the it's what's happening in the movie industry now. Like,
Yeah,
can we please take a movie that sucked and remake it? Can we stop remaking the good ones?
yeah.
Like, that's the thing.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, the I don't know.
Yeah, I get you. Like, I think a certain level of consciousness and being aware. I, I'm really surprised that when I do talk to people, I'm well. I guess when people come and do certain, like when they do like the mentorship with me, they have like a low. You're trying to open up level of consciousness with people. So like, hey, you can do that. You know how you're saying like a person it I guess it's that hokey. It sounds like hokey pokey stuff. Like people, oh, you imagine, say you want to imagine having a Ferrari, right? Let's say you want to do that, and you really have it in your mindset. But say if someone came in and like, I have that saying, I have it like written down, and like, you're not your parents' limitation, right?
Hmm.
And if you ever said to your parents you want a Ferrari and stuff like this, why would you want that? You don't need a Ferrari. It's expensive. Like
Yeah.
why can't you have a Ferrari, right? There's plenty of money to go around the world. There's no limitation on money, right? And like, let's say, not saying I want a Ferrari, but let's say that let's say, okay, let's say that I do want a Ferrari. Let's go for that. And I'll imagine it. And really, you'll put things in place to eventually get the Ferrari. It's a goal. Like, even if you
Hmm.
don't get the Ferrari and you get like maybe you get like a lower end supercar, even then it's still going to be awesome. But like, you're setting your goal to be, always set your goal way high and imagine it and like visualize it. So like, there's a saying, poor thinking keeps you poor, because
Hmm.
you're thinking of like negative things. So if you're a negative person, all you're going to bring is negativity in your life, because you look at the negatives, and then when the positives come, you're not seeing the positives because you're gearing your mindset to look at the negatives. Just like
Yeah.
if you're wanting to design a certain thing, maybe start looking at other stuff that is way out there in terms of design, so you can expose yourself to thinking differently and applying yourself differently. So your level of consciousness becomes more aware, because you never know what's possible, but your brain is, it's just waiting for you to expose it. And believe it or not, like, your brain gets high on learning new things. It actually does get high on it. It's like, it loves to learn things. It's here to learn. But we go, well, age is a limitation. But they've been proving the brain is plastic, and it has certain levels of where it can keep learning. But they say, you don't learn unless you have love or fear. Like, you have to be in those two states. So if you don't have love, you have fear, right? And like, if you don't have,
Both of that is motivation. So you can say,
yeah,
like, unless you
yeah,
have motivation. They actually they have studies that prove that what you said, people don't learn after a certain age. It's actually not true.
Mm,
If an old person like 80 whatever years old, if they have to absolutely have to learn something, they will.
mm,
It's going to take them longer. Neuroplasticity is not there, but
mm.
they will if there is enough motivation for that.
Yeah, and I think,
Yeah, it takes time.
and the thing is, it's like that. You even don't even want to put a limitation saying it takes time. Maybe um, it's really the choice to make that damn choice. Like, let's say if I don't know, you ever seen like that scene in Fight Club with the guy? He's at the convenience store. Brad Pitt's like Tyler's like pointing a gun at the clerk's head and he's
Hmm.
going, "Hey, you better do this, right?" And that's like forcing change. And like, say if you had that to an 80-year-old man, I'm like,
Right.
when it's like neurologically, you're going through like your brain is firing, and I think we never put ourselves under enough incentive to do these things.
Mhm.
I think when you're old, you're like, well, there's no more incentives. Like, I've been on this planet for a while. I've gotten real comfortable with doing what I'm doing. And like, if someone was going to, and then you're like, well, I'm close to death, so maybe it doesn't matter. Like, it's too. But like, when you're, I think a lot of people, they get to their 50s, right, and they realize they've done the wrong thing in their life, right, and then they start to put in changes and things like that, and it's a fire in the belly type of thing.
That's what I'm very afraid of in regards that I don't want to be 50 and realize I haven't done what I wanted to do.
Mm,
I'd like to use my time now and the opportunity to explore as much as I can to not regret it later.
yeah.
Um, and 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 I feel like if you don't have that motivation to learn new stuff, you better find it. You
Mm,
need to figure out what your motivation is going to be. For some people, it's going to be family. For somebody, it's going to be this inner drive that uh, like I'm going to show my dad that like I'm not, this, but I'll be better, whatever.
yeah.
It's different for everyone.
Yeah.
Can be internal, can be external motivation. It can be a Ferrari. It can be, the thought to dominate the world, like Elon Musk level, whatever.
Mm,
Just find whatever drives you. What really, like the reason I started doing art, I think it was in 2008 maybe or nine,
mm,
several years after I moved to US. So like I didn't move here to be an artist.
mm,
I moved here first, and then I realized that I was like, I distinctively remember that day, like that time of the day when it happened, when that decision was made. I was like on a sofa, like watching TV, and I just remember this thought coming to me saying, like, okay, like I need to figure this out. Like I can't be like doing being a server, like boss boy, whatever, like bartending. Like I need to do something. Like what's that inner drive that's never gonna fade? Like what's something that it can be either coming from love or from anger or from like some sort of passion. For
mm.
me, most likely it's a mix of those, but definitely more passion to art. Just I always wanted to draw. It's like an itch that you can't scratch. Like no matter how much you scratch, it's still gonna itch. If you don't do art for a while, you're like, oh shit, like it's like I'm on crack, right? Like I need to do this. uh, and people ask like, oh, like what's your motivation? When they ask for motivation, they automatically imply it's some sort of external
Mm.
thing. Like what? Like maybe I saw something on ArtStation, maybe I saw somewhere something else. It's actually just from the inside. It's just like that fire that's burning, and I'm running around trying to like not make it hurt. Like not doing art hurts.
Yeah.
Doing art not doesn't hurt. So
Yeah.
like it's that state where you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So once you and for somebody it can be like I said, it can be different things. You just need to identify the problem, identify the solution, apply the solution. Like three things, right?
Yeah.
And, and then sometimes they also say like you have somebody to hold you accountable. I think in our industry, it's usually the social media, like people post, and that's what keeps them accountable to like do more art.
Yeah.
Like just find it. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe you just really want that Ferrari, whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Whatever.
matter.
Whatever.
It's just an idea.
Mm,
Just find the idea. Chris Nolan, Inception.
mm,
The, this is like single most powerful thing that drives a man.
mm,
Ideas.
mm.
So if your idea is not driving you, if it's not pushing you to do crazy shit,
Mm.
it's not the right idea. Fuck that idea.
Yeah.
Find a new one.
Yeah.
Keep searching until you find something that's gonna keep you going until you will find a different idea that's gonna you're gonna hop on the next one, hop on the next one, right?
Yeah.
That's lately that's the general theme, right? Like that's why I said I started looking at pieces that I produce as just, hopefully in this piece I will learn something that's gonna help me create the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see that with people's artwork. Like today when I was in class, someone, the funny thing is someone made these, like, I think he made a joke. He modeled like a penis thing, like
Mhm.
a penis, and made like I think he molded it. And then he made a mold, silicon mold out of it. And he made a whole website. I can't remember the name, but it's ridiculous. It's like silicon penises, right? As key rings.
Wow.
And he's made a whole website out of it. And he's made keyring, like drinking straws out of silicon, and they're ridiculous. And guess what? He got to quit his job and just make money from making silicon
Why
silicon
not?
keyrings. And that's what happens, man. Like you do these things.
Monetize dicks.
What's that?
Monetize dicks. Like monetize
Get it.
whatever you want.
And dude, it's enough money. It's probably way more money than it could be paying, like 200 grand a year, 300 grand a year.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Just modeling penises. Like,
Yeah.
who would think?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, like think about it. Like you don't know where things head up, and he did it out of like because he wanted to do it. You know, he expressed that thing of doing something ridiculous. You don't know where everything takes you, but you do it out of the passion that you want to. Like a lot of people who sing a song, they say that they just go blah 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 do like that's, and then they add lyrics, and sometimes they don't even know what they're singing about, but
Yeah.
they figure it out the song. And that's like art. Like you don't, I say when you sit down and you do a piece of artwork, you don't necessarily know where it's going straight away, but you figure it out. It's like that rhythm. You're rhyming things, and it's so hard to sit down and show people how you work, because emotionally you're having to get. It's like you're getting ready to sing for people, and you're like performing. You know
Yeah,
how
you need
people
to warm up, right? Sort of.
yeah, you know how people kind of like, hey, model something for me, and you're like, oh, like you put me on the spot here. Like I'm not
Yeah.
gonna, like you might only start performing 20 or 30 minutes in, and everything just looks like crap until you get 30 minutes in. You're like, there it is, and it could be an hour or two, and you're like, well, there it is, and then on top of it, like sometimes everything, you know, when work really comes together at like that last 10% at the very end, and it's like it's really like art is really hard to show. I'm really like this is going to look good, trust me. But it's like at the very end that it's
Yeah.
going to look real cool, and it's like, hey, I don't suck, do I? Like it's like, and you're like, oh, I'm really sucking here, and you're not. I think what people aren't doing is like being patient with themselves. Yeah, like be patient.
Right.
Things,
Maybe
yeah.
do you think when somebody does like a piece of artwork that's maybe to like the common standards or is not quite there, like they're still learning, you think they just haven't been patient with, taking it further?
I think so. I think they haven't been patient. They haven't given something enough
Would you
time.
say like that's like most of the time?
It's like 50-50. I think what happens is understanding, level of consciousness, patience, being open-minded to learning techniques, not being stubborn with stuff. Maybe being stubborn in the sense that, hey, I can do this. Yeah, I believe in myself. That type of stubbornness, that would be a good thing to have. Not, you know how is like Arnold Schwarzenegger is like, don't listen to the naysayers. Like, don't listen to it. Don't listen to anything negative. Like if you're taking in negative information as you're working, you're like, I suck, I suck, I suck. You're telling your subconscious mind that you suck, and you're going to produce the suckage that you actually are what's that word for, to like re-engage that suckage of producing work. It's like going back to like if you tell yourself you're going to be negative at something, you're not going to perform. you won't be able to perform. It's like going, well, there's a massive thing. You have to jump from here to here. And if you said, I'm going to be very doubtful from jumping from here to here, you might just fall in. So it's kind of like,
because mentally, what you're going through mentally, it has influence on your physical abilities as well. It's like, I mean, I like to compare maybe artists to, it's like a mental athlete, right? Like, unlikely that an athlete is ready to make that jump or that run, and he keeps saying, "Oh, I don't think I can do this." Quite the opposite. Like, he's there at the beginning of his jump or run, and he's like pumping himself up, like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do this. Like, I'm gonna kill it."
yeah,
And he's mentally and physically ready, because when you start winding yourself up mentally, your body catches up. It starts to produce hormones that you need to perform physically. And sometimes it's what's separating you from finishing that piece. You just can't sit down on the desk and physically perform. Like, mentally you're there, like you're ready to finish it, you just don't want to sit down. That's because you're like keep saying like negative shit, you know. Pump yourself up, put the timer, and your brain will produce hormones that will help you finish it.
And setting excuses.
I think
Yeah.
what?
I was just saying, setting excuses, going and going, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat something. It'll make me feel like
Well, yeah.
Sometimes. Yeah.
That's also that's funny because it has to do with I'm gonna help myself. I have this diagram. It's called there's like this diagram between like challenges and skill. I don't know. Can I share the screen?
I'll let you share your screen. So you can share your screen.
Is that? Oh yeah, share screen. Here, this one. Let me know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, for whoever is listening in Russian that says "Нам кажется, что мы ничего не делаем," it means it to us it seems like we're not doing anything. Yeah. It's just like a random screenshot I took from some talk I was listening to, but this is a diagram like challenges versus skills, and where our attention is constantly shifting between these states. Like, if the challenge is too high, you're going to be in the and the skill is too low, you're going to be shifting between like worry, anxiety, and it will shift to arousal. But like, you need skill to push it to the flow state. And the same, like low level challenge, it's going to be apathy and boredom and relaxation and control, a lot, which is literally the lower part of this chart is fucking production. Like, hopefully the challenges are not high enough, right? And you have enough skill. So that's why work is boring most of the time, because the challenge is not high enough and the skill is there. And creative part is up in the high challenges. That's why it's so difficult to stay in the flow. You're constantly shifting to like it says, arousal, anxiety, worry, like that whole spectrum.
Because you're trying to like up your skill in the sense.
And arousal is not like, just to make a point here, like it's not even sexual arousal. Arousal, like it's a stimulus, like shift to go eat, like your appetite, whatever. It tries to shift anywhere but flow. Like, you need that focus, 100% of that focus on the flow.
Yeah.
And another thing I like to think about is attention is like your budget. You have a budget of attention. It's like money.
Yeah.
So if you spend that money somewhere else, you're gonna have less money to spend on the thing that you're trying to do. So you need to focus, and focus is the hardest. For me, it has been like this day and age, the hardest thing to do is focus on one goddamn thing.
Oh yeah.
It's even hard to focus on the movie when it's interesting. You're like in your phone all the time. And even in the phone, it's hard to focus on the phone. You're switching between the apps.
Yeah.
Like inside of an app on Instagram, you're switching between accounts. You're like going through so much data in per second. That's insane.
Yeah.
And so that's why long-term formats have been shifting down to like short-term formats in terms of duration of episodes, duration of movies. Um, and that's when it requires high attention, short form, because we have trained ourselves over the course of like 10, 20 years maybe lately to have high attention, short term cycle, and long term products are like requiring a lot less attention. It's those TV shows where you don't have to think. It's not even funny, or like it's not interesting. You just have it there to be on the background.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's bad. Like that's where it's going where it's going. Like whatever. But if that's the reason you're struggling, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, well, once you understand what's happening, maybe it can help you, uh, take the steering wheel, be in the driver's seat
Yeah.
instead of being a passenger of your body just not being able to focus on one single thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I have that like something I'm working on for a client. So I'm going through like the boredom. I'm like, I'm bored. Like I'm don't like this is boring. I've done it before. I'm bored. And then I've noticed that you definitely like so when I'm doing like this new personal project, I'm going through like weirdly you go through arousal, hunger, and all that stuff. Why am I so hungry? I just ate, and it's like it's because I don't
Yeah,
want to do the thing that's challenging.
exactly. Because you're just like, oh, tilted. Like the weight has shifted a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And what I realize is that what I've been doing practicing now is actually disconnect the internet from the computer that I'm working on,
Mm,
and I just listen to
that's
Audible.
an idea.
Yeah, disconnect it and disconnect it to the point. Don't just disconnect at your computer here. Go at the source and just because you'll just be sneaky and I'll connect it quickly.
Mhm.
When you have to go and walk to the source and connect your internet, it's like you
Yeah.
go through the thing. I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm procrastinating. And there's nothing on the internet for me right now. I checked my emails. I gave myself, 20 minutes or an hour in the morning to do whatever I needed to do. There is
Mhm.
no goddamn excuse of why I actually need to have the computer connected to the internet. And what
Right.
happens is you subconsciously free up all this space, just like you were saying. All this space becomes free, and it's like, I actually want to work. Weirdly,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
because I'm bored. Like it's like I'm
Exactly.
because it's that like flicking through Facebook or something like that, or even checking your emails will actually give you more of a dopamine hit than actually doing work. It's weird,
Mhm.
right? Even if someone's paying you money, it's like it's like instant. Like you have a gravitation to pay, like to see an email. It's like, oh, someone important.
Instant gratification, right?
Yeah, yeah. And this is why like people get stuck on Instagram and over like doing stuff. Like I so when I go to the gym, I do not use my phone at all. Like it because as soon as
Music?
you hey,
No music?
no, well, I listen to the music in the gym. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
That's trash.
But no, well, my gym I go to, it's like you can pick the music. It's like a real small hut,
Oh, thank God.
and it has decent music on. And then sometimes I actually challenge myself and I do no music. Like I'm not sure if you've seen David Goggins before. He's like, you don't need
Mhm.
no music. Like
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
need music. Where's your motivation coming from? And what I realize is like, yeah, you don't. Like I go to the gym and like I'm like, yeah, push. How hard can you mentally push? And when are
Mhm.
you actually mentally tired? Not when if you're counting to 10, you've told yourself that's 10, but 10 is just when you're getting started. Like in a weird way,
Mhm.
try and trick yourself and go, well, is that really burning, or can it burn just more to the point where I actually stop forgetting about the burn? And you can
Yeah.
actually like, well, that burns that burnt like 80% more that time because you pushed it. And it's like what I realize is that you're much more capable of achieving certain things, like sitting down and working. Like you could sit down, it might take you, you could sit down for like 3 or 4 hours in one sitting. It might not be healthy, but some
Mhm.
people have a challenge with doing it. It might take them 10, 20 minutes to do it. But then like disconnecting yourself from other external things that give you more of a dopamine hit and a mental distraction. So if you're at the gym, you mentally have to take in your phone, read the bullshit on the phone, and then that distracts your mental state from
Mhm.
actually going,
Yeah.
I'm going to lift the weight now. You've just told your brain, let me take in this email. Oh, now I'm kind of worried the client isn't happy. And now I'll go back to lifting the weight. I'm a bit worried about this. Like, and you're not mentally lifting the weight with your brain. You're like, you're subconsciously distracted.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I understand. Like I watched David Goggins as well, and like in different podcasts, and pushing yourself mentally. I think we're just, the problem probably comes from being afraid of the confrontation, and in this case, it's the confrontation with yourself.
Mm.
So you give in more and more and more, and like the less discipline you have, the easier it is to flip that safety switch to like give up, and it's easy. It's like it's, you know, it's easier to give in to something else than to actually face your problem. Learning to face your problem, as again read it somewhere today. There's this channel I follow, Three Blue One Brown. It's a math guy dissecting math visually. Super interesting. He also teaches, and I don't know if you can pull it up, but it's just interesting from any aspect. But he says the more you challenge yourself with the problem, the more you think about the problem, the more, yep, this one, Three Blue One Brown. The more creative you're gonna get about that problem. So
Cool.
if you're not facing your challenges, you're gonna apply mechanical, automatic solutions to your problems. You're not going to be creative about it because you're not brainstorming it. You're giving up too early about this. Like I am, I mean, definitely when I sit down and I'm looking at, like, I need to model this and like I still have nothing figured out. Huge anxiety about this, and lots of ways to cope with that stress. And basically, the easiest is to break your big problem into small, attackable, solvable problems.
Yeah.
But it actually comes full circle with David Goggins and what you said about the gym. It's exactly the same approach. If you go to the rack, like where you're about to squat, and you think that I need to do 20 squats, like I could never squat that weight at 20. But once you start doing it, your brain automatically goes into this mode where, oh, 20, that's like 2 times 10, and 10 is what? 10 is like 5 and 5, and 5 is only 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2. And then, you know, 1, 2, 3 is just 1, 2, and 1. And when you break it down, your brain is capable to understand, like, of understanding the problem it's dealing with. And it's, I feel like it's allocating all the resources properly. Like, same with art. To get going, you need to start doing it. You need to get into the car and start driving. Otherwise, looking at the car will not get you to the destination. So yeah, that's a huge problem. I think the biggest pause, like the wall, I guess, between you and the final product happens in that very first stage where blank canvas, like staring at the blank canvas. I know it's been like, it's a dead horse. Like people talk about it all the time, like just make a mark, just do something. Unfortunately, it's true. Like to me, the analogy with the car helped a lot. Instead of the canvas, I'm like sitting there looking at the car, like not moving at all. To get somewhere, you need to start moving, no matter how slow. Same analogy with the gym, same analogy with making changes to your mental states, to your learning. Especially when you're trying to learn something new. Like for example, I'm trying to learn Arnold, and I'm trying to shift from Keyshot to something like a renderer that would be production ready. And when I say trying to learn, it's a big word. Like I have some tutorials and I've watched some of them, and I maybe opened Arnold like once. But I've done it. Like that's already a big step that I have um, if it's the scales, like that tips the scales a little bit to the
You're,
positive side.
you've exposed yourself to it. Like I'm the same thing with Blender. I spent
Mhm.
ages ago learning Blender, and then I found one negative about Blender, and Blender's bowling tools suck, and I'm like, I hate it. Like I'm gonna go away from it. And then I realized like everyone's showing me Blender, and it's like, I've come back into. So I'm gonna render my. I mean, I think you've seen it, the cock my gun chick.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna render that in Blender, and then I'm gonna actually release the model free to
Mhm.
everyone to animate it for me. I'm like, hey,
Oh yeah.
here's a nice render of it with all the materials. Go ahead, animate the damn thing. Do what the hell you want with it. And so like it gives me an excuse because it's a motivation to learn a new program. So
Mhm.
like I think maybe with you, maybe there has to be enough reason to jump into Arnold. And you're like, well, where's the project that I really want to jump into?
Right.
Because Keyshot kind of like satisfies a lot of things, things that like Keyshot's like this like weird balance of like it can do everything, but it can't. It's not like super great at it, and it's not production ready. And I mean, I guess if someone came up to you and go, "Hey, we need you to do a job," we need you to deliver it, and you're probably like, "Okay, I'm going to learn this thing." Apart
Yeah.
from that, you're kind of like procrastinating on it a bit, and there's no big reason, I guess.
But I also look at this as I'm not leaving Keyshot. Like it's not that I'm switching from one to another. I have been sitting in Keyshot since, I mean, God knows, version 2, and it's like on 9 now.
It's crazy.
Uh, it's not gonna go anywhere. Like that knowledge about Keyshot, I'm gonna have that forever.
Mm,
And I'm gonna it's so easy to jump from version to version, learning new stuff there incrementally.
mm,
But what's gonna make me better?
mm,
Only learning something new, adding to it, you
mm.
know. Hopefully, and like you said, like with Blender, you don't need to completely switch to Blender and learn the modeling tools. If the
Yeah,
modeling tools suck in Blender, fuck it. Just use Blender for Eevee and cycles or whatnot, whatever that rendering is, because that's cool. Use it for animation.
mm,
Use it for making those inflated pillows from all these Blender tutorials. Like whatever, just get the best. Like it's at your expense. Get the best out of that instrument, make it work for you. And who says that you just need to know one software and use it like religiously, A to Z? Not really.
you don't. I mean, so like you can. Like, I'm using Moe. I'm using XSI now, Blender, and then Keyshot. I mean, you got Photoshop, and like there'll be another. I use Max every now and again.
Because it has something, right? It has something that where you are just more efficient at that in Max rather than relearning that in Blender per se. And maybe it's not just quite the same thing. What's interesting about this, see, like your spectrum of tools,
mm,
that's what makes you so unique.
yeah,
Because to replicate your process, you can be like, well, it's actually my process is 10% in XSI. Like, how much are you willing to learn XSI just for this?
yeah, yeah,
So that I see that as this is your, uh, I mean, journey is a big word, but like this is your method, this
mm,
is your formula, and it works for you.
mm,
The only lesson that can be learned from here is not learning the same tools, but learning the basic principle
mm,
of, just learn something that helps you get to your goal. Set the goal. If you don't have the goal, unfortunately, you're not never going to get there.
yeah,
I also realized that with a lot of stuff where um, something I heard recently as well, uh, do everything with a purpose. I think it's from Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules of Life or something like that.
yeah,
Uh, Definitely one, and it takes mental discipline
mm,
to do everything with a purpose because that actually means to learn how to say no to yourself, which is the hardest thing to do, right?
yeah,
Um, so when I started, like for example, like uh, I don't know, go for a walk with a purpose, eat with a purpose, sit down to model, have that purpose in mind. Actually, Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about this in the gym as well, when he says, when you're doing the rep, you need to be thinking about that rep, not about, like you said, not about the email.
mm,
Like all of your mental focus needs to be in what are you doing, why are you doing this,
Mm.
and that's actually your mental conditioning to
Yeah.
help you like the process, to help you stay in the process. But when you're in that process and you don't know the purpose of why you're doing it, you're least likely to keep doing that process.
Mm.
So like I sit down, I open Fusion, I try to set a goal. Like my purpose right now, and it needs to be, again, Jordan Peterson helped me a lot this year, again, like struggling with understanding what I want to do and stuff. um, you need to set goals that are attainable and within your reach,
Mm.
and you are your best friend with setting the goals. Like my favorite thing he ever said was about like setting a schedule for your day. And a
Mm.
lot of people, and I'm gonna paraphrase him, but a lot of people think that when you set your schedule for the day, it needs to be like, I'm gonna work for 8 hours, then I'm gonna do this, this, and that.
Mm.
You haven't budgeted your day for rest. You haven't budgeted your day for play,
Mm.
uh, for like enjoying and whatever. He says, plan your day as if this would be like your best day, ideal day. What would be your ideal day?
Mm.
Ideal day, you probably want to work for about like 4 hours tops,
Mm.
probably 2 hours here, 2 hours there.
Mm.
That's going to be your ideal day. So, well, then program yourself and set the schedule for that 4 hours of work
Mm.
instead of setting 8 hours of work, right? Because you're never going to get to the 8 hours of work no matter what. You're just going to get distracted and no actual like mm, stimulation to do that.
Yeah.
So setting goals that you can hit,
Mm.
again, from big problem to smaller problem,
Mm.
I feel like that's super important. So when I open up Fusion, my goal is not to finish a piece. My goal is not to model this and that. My goal is spend 2 hours in Fusion having fun. Maybe I'll come up with something, maybe I won't.
Mm.
At least I'm not going to get disappointed, and I'm not going to get that negative feedback from my experience with Fusion this day.
Yeah.
Because I still, no matter what, I met my goal. I just opened it and I fucked around like in it for 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I,
It's
I get that fulfillment
when you put pressure on yourself, your creative juices go away that
immediately.
immediately. Like you stress.
That's your creative boner. If
Yeah.
if you if you keep thinking about it like I gotta keep it up,
Yeah.
it's never gonna be up.
That's where performance anxiety comes from when people, get it.
Exactly.
I think,
It's literally performance anxiety in front of yourself. You're like,
yeah,
I've been in Fusion for how long, and I can't do this,
yeah,
and that's just like you keep like digesting this, and it turns into this anxiety.
mm.
Instead, like stop thinking about it. Just like have fun.
It's already there. Like you've practiced, right? As long as you practice, it's there. And don't think about try not to think about the outcome because the outcome will be maybe it's way bigger than and that you're trying to anticipate. Like you're saying, don't go for well, I guess don't think of ridiculous stuff that's going to be really intimidating in that big picture. Like you want to just a little bit, take little
Yep,
steps,
yep, yep.
and just to digest it and enjoy it. But hey, that looks good. And when you've worked on something, and you're like, oh, that looks like a cool detail. That looks like a cool detail. And then it's like about if I'm spending like maybe a good month on a project, and then then you look at it in that big thing, and all you do is you just look at it, and you're like,
Yeah, yeah,
you're looking at all the angles, and you're like, and you're like,
yeah.
like I did good. Like you're like, when's this gonna start sucking? And you're like, it doesn't suck yet. You're like, yes, I didn't. And then there's some, how like because you're working on something, and then there's a suckage point, and it still sucks. And it's like
Mhm.
you get to the end, you're like, I tweaked this proportion, I tweaked this, and it's like, ooh, yeah, like beautiful. And he's like, I did it. And you're like, look, mom, I did it. Like,
And then unfortunately, like for me, I tend to like spend too much time after, like when you already found what you need,
mm,
and you just like I get locked into rotating my model for like 4 hours every day, just enjoying it.
it's porn. You've made,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I don't know how to move on from like
Oh, you
keep
got to
pushing.
pull yourself away.
Yeah, like I don't know. How do you do it?
Oh, when after you've made work, you got to pull yourself away, and then you can appreciate it later. Like the helmet, I didn't appreciate that thing for years, and I'm like, hey, I'm
Really?
gonna, yeah, I didn't. I was like, I did it. Everyone else appreciate it, and then I was like, hey, I'm gonna go print that on a canvas, see what it looks like blown up, and I'm like, oh wow, I get to like appreciate it. Like how many 6 or 7 years later, way more, and every time I look at it, I get that because that thing was horrible to work on. Like I wanted to forget about the memories of working on it and
Oh wow!
me
It
going into
traumatized you?
yeah, it was traumatizing. It was really traumatizing because it was like I'm going to make this thing so well balanced that people can't pick it apart. Like people can't find
Mhm.
mistakes in it, and it's traumatizing because you're going through that thought process of like people will pick this, people will criticize this, and you're being
Absolutely.
and to be really really critical with your work sends you a little bit crazy. But there's a
Hmm.
mastery in that. Like I'm not sure if you read Robert Greene's book, like certain called mastery that sitting down and doing something and doing it really well. I'm not saying he says you go crazy, but I believe when you work on something really hard, there's a certain level of insanity that one person has to go through. But
Hmm.
if the person on the outside looks insane, but the person on the inside feels like he's going insane because they're going through working on something and they know something's there and they know something great is there, but they have to push through it. And I think
It's
it can,
internal reasoning there, right? Like that cannot be seen from the outside.
yeah, yeah. And so you can see that I can always imagine when people have like when people made like the like the light bulb, you can imagine looking at that person like you're insane, aren't you? You are insane. You're going to make this light bulb, and I mean you've
Yeah.
revolutionized the world, right? And it's I mean those people would look at those people as insane. What about the person that first invented a flying vehicles and stuff like that or
Mhm.
plane, right? And it's like those people would look insane, but now they're
They saw something nobody else have seen.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, it takes a certain level of belief in yourself
Mm,
that I believe that I see something. You're absolutely right. Like modeling things that nobody will ever see. But what if like somebody will be like, oh, you didn't do this,
yeah.
and I cannot let uh, like I will let myself down if somebody will look at the detail and say, well, it's actually not quite that, and I'm gonna kill myself like over that, right?
Yeah,
So
you can,
that's why you spend so much.
yeah, you pick your battles. You do pick your battles.
Right.
It's like you pick your masterpiece. Like you know what I mean? Like you're doing that right with
Hmm.
certain work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to believe in it when nobody else believes.
Mm,
There it has to be valid enough reasoning within like your own mind
mm,
that you have to trust yourself that yeah, I'm looking for something very particular in that model, a
yeah.
certain look, a certain feel. You need to be able to identify that field and keep hitting it every time. Like, what are you going for? What's the purpose?
Mm,
Like, what is the feeling that you're trying to convey? Like,
mm,
hopefully, and I've been able to achieve that subconsciously so far. But what if I actually take the steering wheel and now I purposefully tell people what to feel
mm.
through that?
Do
Uh,
do you find yourself kind of like because like in the back of my mind I have like I'm working on something at the moment. I'm like I didn't do that thing. Might go back and do it, and I'm trading off, right? So like with that last project that I've released, there was like an ammo clip coming around from her vagina, and I was in
uh-huh.
class today because I was showing the scene, and I unhid everything, and the ammo clip showed up because I hid it, and I thought it'd be too provocative, and they're like, "Hey, you
Mhm.
should add that back." That totally makes sense that the ammo clip goes in her vagina and then the bullets go in.
I agree.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to add it back. So now I have to go back and then do a bit more work on the project. And for that, like, I'm not sure if you get like that with some of your pieces that it's like an itch. Like, I can't stop. Like,
Mhm.
I gotta do it because I think maybe I've procrastinated on releasing it because it's not really intended. It's not going to show what my intention was. So
Mhm.
maybe I'm going through that natural progression. Like when people release something, and when the time's ready, they'll release it. It's not
Mhm.
like they worked like every day on it. They've gone through this like emotional process of getting ready for the crescendo, the release.
Yeah.
the big pop. And it's because once you release it, like that's it, you're done. Like you better get it
Mhm.
right the first time. People's
Right.
exposure to things. Like, do you get like that when you're working on things? You're like, I better get this right. Like you sit down, and you're like, I got to get this render right. I got to make sure like the big release is it's really important. It's really important.
To a point of OCD about it. Like,
Yeah.
it has happened to me more so before and less now. But like, you would upload it, immediately see what the fuck is wrong in this particular area, and you take it down, and be like, shit, like, how did I not see this?
Yeah.
Uh, because it forces you to like look at this through a critical eye, right?
Mm,
Is what you're saying. It's so important to step away.
mm,
And I've actually had some models, I don't remember which ones, where I worked on it for like whatever, like several weeks, and then I leave it, and then I come back like months later,
mm,
and I'm like, holy shit, that's an interesting idea that I had,
mm.
and I never took it somewhere, but now I'm still I'm inspired again by the same idea, and I'm able to take it further. Because I think when you it's like you spend too much time in the same, like on the same model, you start to you do get the blind eye and stuff like that, right? And
Mm,
I think it's also your thinking about that model changes.
mm.
You get married to a lot of ideas, and you see your mistakes or like whatever you want to fix so much that you become okay with it temporarily, and then when you step away and come back, you like, how could I not see this?
Mm,
Well, you didn't see this because it was right in front of you the whole time, and you chose to ignore it to work on something else.
mm.
But now when you come back, you're not working on any other details, so you cannot ignore the most obvious problem that was like in the center of the model.
Yeah.
um, but I was going to ask about the ammo clip. uh, so like, you you make decisions, right? Like when you piece together the model,
Mm.
um, you go through these iterations, and so like you said, you hit part of the model. I wonder what's the percentage of things that get hidden and shown and like disappear
Oh,
they would want to bring back.
I think maybe like, um, well, I'm trying to be more honest with stuff now. So I've taken a lot of notes from like Vitaly, right, where he's working with a sense of flow and freedom and exploration and non-OCDness. And I believe that that ammo clip was a flow from me. And
Mm-hmm.
what I did was I let, in ArtStation, they made me block my ticket penis.
I don't agree with that. So yeah.
That got to me. And then when I was realizing today in class, I'm like, holy shit, I let other people get to me. And
Mm-hmm.
what I've said to, like, there's one thing in life that I've constantly said that I'm not going to let other people get to me. And like, I'm tired of doing client work. So I'm going to make something for myself where I'm actually doing my
Right.
work. So these are things that are really important to me. Cause I think when you sit and you look at your life, you listen to other people. And when you do client work, you're a slave to someone else, essentially.
You
Um,
letting other people tell you what to do.
Letting other people tell you what to do. So everything in my power, I'm like putting things in place that I'm going to be like completely independent with my thoughts and completely independent with my income that comes into me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And like, I was like, holy crap, I took the ammo clip away because I thought it was too sexually provocative. But realistically, it's kind of like female empowerment. It's like, a chick with a gun in weird terminology, and she's going to be shooting down bad guys. And there was, I have a female student in the class, and I asked her, do you find this offensive? And she's like, no, I find it cool. I'm like, well, that's all I need. And she's
Right.
like, add it back, because she finds it cool. And so what I've done is like, I took what ArtStation like imposed on me, and I let it change my art. So
Yeah, that
that's that sort of thing. And I have other things in the work where it's like going to be like really, I have other stuff that I'm going to show soon. That's really like, it's like Geiger-esque sexual,
okay.
and it's going to be really weird. and I'm going to be showing that soon and expressing that side, because I tell everyone, like, because I had that whole, like, yeah, I was addicted to porn for a fair few years, and so like that energy, I want it to like flow into the art and express this weirdness. Like Geiger expressed it so well, and just like he like, dude, just express whatever like is in you, because if it can come out in your art and you can show these unique things and unique qualities without judgment. And with the hard surface sci-fi stuff, I got tired of seeing just robot stuff, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, we're just seeing robots everywhere. Like, it's like a stiff, like a boring robot. Let me like mix like sexual and robots, because you know, what's his name, Sorarama, so the Asian artist. He made the airbrushing of that robot, really famous robot. Let me try
I
and
don't think
find
I do.
what's his name? Sorama. Can't remember his name.
It sounds familiar.
I'm
Well,
butcher.
while you're looking it up, because I do want to see it. I have no problem with like when let's say mixing porn and art.
Mm,
It doesn't only happen like with you or in 3D. There's lots of 2D artists, and I have one particular in mind who uh, normally does like regular art, but then like super successful in erotic uh, illustration.
yeah.
And like, why the hell not? Like, I
Yeah.
don't see sex is biggest part of our lives, right? And has been and will be
Mm,
until we're wearing this meat suit.
mm,
So how come it's the most hidden part? Like, who gets to say what to show and like what robots can and cannot be?
mm,
Uh, you putting sexual energy into robots,
mm.
first of all, my absolute favorite thing in the world. But second, that's what makes them human.
Yeah.
Like that's one big thing that is the connection.
Mm,
Like robots don't get to reproduce sexually, right? So that's the carry on from the previous. That this is super cool. I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen this either, but this is the artist. He made that really famous robot chick. And dude, this guy's is I want to buy like some of his paintings before like he passes away. Because really,
He's all right, like because that robot chick, I've seen that before.
yeah, like he's got. I emailed him. I want to buy a piece of your artwork. I want to get one of your paintings. Like, man, like think about it. It's like when Frank Frazetta passed away, all these things became priceless.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes hard to get their artwork. And I was thinking, damn, like we don't appreciate these artists. And this guy made something that's super cool, man. Really cool. I'm sure
Yeah,
you've seen him before, right?
I've seen the robot. Yeah, I haven't seen this video or this installation at all.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like I'd love to do stuff like this, but on a different, my own level of expression and things like that. Because when we make things like this, it's like how do we make it move? Like it's stiff mechanical structures. Like I
Right.
always look at the holy grail of sci-fi art is sub D and hard
Mhm.
surface. This is why like Vitaly has such a good thing, because he's always done these things. And like I always did, I did those things, but I never fully expressed myself with that. And that's what I want to do now. But I want to, like, I just couldn't find what I wanted to do, because I don't believe in just doing robots, because I don't find too much enjoyment from doing just robots. I have this weird mix of expression in what I want to show. I want to have a feeling and an emotion behind it, and a reason, because that's what, as we're talking about, the passion will come through. Like it's so cool, right? It's just
It's mind blowing. Yeah,
yeah, it's
the fact
really
that
cool
this
stuff.
exists altogether.
Yeah.
Uh, I have no doubt that you have like especially that like this kind of reminds me of what Vitaly did with Ghost in the Shell.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
like
he
it
did an
has
awesome job.
quite a few renders that do look like that.
Yeah,
Sorayama, yeah. I've seen all of this for sure. I just didn't know the
yeah,
name.
like so cool.
Dude, this is the best.
Yeah,
Uh, so
like
like I have no doubt that there is a lot of or there's like big target audience, and people want to see what you're saying.
Mm.
My problem with that is what ArtStation did. Like
Mm.
why would you be uh I guess virtually silenced
Yeah.
by expressing yourself?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you why, right? Like because it's being controlled by popular opinion, and most of it is also regarding production. And there's not so many sexual things in production, and
Yeah.
that's how you know this is true, like purest form of art, when it's the opposite side of the spectrum, like on the opposite side of production.
Yeah.
That's when it's valuable.
Mm.
Production is not valuable whatsoever. It has no lasting value.
Mm.
It's an instrument. It's like production equals money. Money will not bring you happiness. That's the reason art brings you joy and happiness,
Mm.
because it's not attainable through art. Like art has that integral part of production, just like happiness has that integral part of money, like being the vehicle to happiness.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not the destination. So
Mm.
production quality, making something ultra real, ultra mechanically correct, takes away from imagination, takes away from feeling, and being able to enjoy it.
Mm.
So I like that you're approaching this, first of all, from the inside, like telling your own story, right? That's how you're connecting to this,
Mm.
and that's how other people will connect,
Mm.
and they are connecting. That's the reason I like your art. That's that mix of sexual and mechanical, because that's everything that you know resonates with me
Mm.
on the same frequency.
Mm.
That's the rhyme. Like we talked about the rhyme within detail and the rhyme within songs. Your vision rhymes with my vision, right? Like with my understanding, with my perception of myself. It has to rhyme. It has to resonate on the same frequency
Mm.
for me to like it.
Mm.
And when somebody else says that, uh, let's let's distort or shift the frequencies a little bit, it's not coming to me with the same, like I'm not getting the same value.
Mm.
I'm getting a cut product.
Mm.
So censorship is something that I'm passionate about, like not having censorship.
Mm.
Like we will tune in and filter the things out.
Mm.
um, I'm just I'm kind of excited to see, not kind of, I'm really excited to see what this is going to evolve into, like on from your perspective.
Oh,
like
yeah.
like
I was,
what other ideas are
mm.
sitting in there, because what I'm seeing so far, no one has done that.
Mm.
No, literally no one. I
That's what I
mean,
realized. Yeah.
in 2D, I've seen this sexualization of robots, right? Like we've seen
Yeah.
that, but again, different implementation, different level. In 3D, I don't know any other artist that does that.
Mm. Yeah.
So you have uh, you have uh, found the niche,
Mm.
and I hope you finger it to death.
That's
So
what I was gonna say
like,
to you. I'm just getting started. Like I found it, and
yeah, just destroy it, balls to the wall, right? Because nobody else does it.
yeah, yeah,
So which means you're already so far ahead.
yeah.
Like hours of thought, uh,
Mm.
like disregard hours of implementation, hours of thought put into it. Like you think about this every day.
Mm.
Nobody else in the world thinks about this every day. So you're that's a handicap to everybody else.
Mm.
This is what happens with this is like my theory about super, like artists who explode out of nowhere.
Mm.
They put so much thought. It's like that's this idea of 10,000 hours in experience of mastery. Same with ideas. put 10,000 hours of worth of idea of thought into an idea, it's gonna look so fucking alien to
Mm.
a person who put 1 hour of thought into that idea.
Yeah.
So it's definitely it's pure math there.
Yeah. And
So yeah, the more you think about it, like the more alien it's gonna be to me, and that's what I value the most right now. We're fine tuned for innovation. We're fine tuned for give me something new, like more new stuff. That's the reason we want to explore space.
mm.
We're not satisfied with with explanations of what's happening here. We're not satisfied with. That's why we're going down to. I'm sorry, I'm like shifting to physics again, but
Go.
that's why we are dissecting everything down to fucking atom. Still not satisfied. We
Mm.
need more. Like get to the bottom. Uh, and now it's like down to string theory, and it's just some sort of energies vibrating to make it look like it's a physical object. It's just
Mm.
insane.
Mm.
To get down to the bottom of what the fuck is going on in the world, I would love that. Uh, Again, meat suit, not capable of it. I I I can already see that there's just no potential for processing that type of information. The
Mm.
only way we can achieve that is with AI, that because it just much more data per second of processing,
Mm.
and then maybe it can then mathematically transform those ideas for us to uh, be palpable or not palpable, digestible. So hopefully it will. It's like translating. Like let AI go into this uh, void or whatever. Like explore, think of insane ideas, those tens of thousands of hours of thought, because, and in a second, right? Like we're not capable of that.
Mm.
And then uh, translate that, just like math graphs, translate it into something you're able to understand. I think you're like tapping into stuff like that.
Mm.
And hopefully there's more. It's like a deep well where you can
Yeah.
mine it forever.
See, I want to actually sell it for like have like so what I've sat down is like I want to make abstract art, but then exploit sexuality in it, but then make people think about it different. And well, I've done robotic stuff, and I've also done organic stuff. So I'm gonna
Mhm.
have like a range of like hard surface things where I want to make subjective. I want people to talk about stuff, and I want to like be the up yours to the industry. Okay, look how good I can make this thing. Like, and it's like this erotic thing. Like, I'm fucking good at making this thing that looks like a real engineered robot. And it's like,
Right.
but I'm making you look at this erotic thing, and I'm making you. I'm like, I'm not making a robot. I'm not confined to, hey, let's make a sci-fi robot thing. Let's just fuck what we've established. And I want to like, I don't want to make what everyone else is making. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, if you, I mean, I want you to look, and the thing is, I want you to look at something slightly awkward that is something erotic. But the thing is,
Disturbing, but like just in a good way,
yeah,
in a sense.
and I think that the up yours is like the up yours to people who want to silence.
It's a literal robot dick up the censorship and whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, I went PG with it. It used to be, it was erect like that on
Like,
if I was like, I'll put it down because people will be offended. Okay,
yeah.
people were still offended either way. So, I mean, the design had ovaries and the idea that the penis could come off and there was a vagina behind it. And I was
Mhm.
trying to play with both sexes because we were doing that gender swapping
Mhm.
thing. And I believe, it sounds weird, but I believe that we've been told to be male or female and we believe it. And like, in old like Roman times, people used to have sex with both genders. And
Mhm.
they say that if we weren't raised to believe that we were attracted, so like you're attracted to a female, attracted to a male, you would gender swap all the time.
Mhm.
But you've been conditioned to find that disturbing. This is what they actually say to psychology, like conditioned us to think we are like, say you're straight, you're conditioned to think you're straight
Well, because you're conditioned to think everything that you think.
Exactly. Exactly.
Not just that. People usually use that analogy with sexuality, but
Yeah.
it's about anything. All of your ideas are a product of your environment
Mm,
and your upbringing and your history. But about the robots,
mm,
that's kind of interesting because I mean, sex is good. That's why your idea is so on point. Sex is obsolete. We can see the signs of that change now with like people going at hormone HRT and stuff like that.
yeah.
What happens, like we're gonna lose sex as like X and Y, we're gonna lose that.
Yeah.
So you're already like predicting this virtual sexuality in robotics,
Yeah.
because it's like, I mean, you know how like males have nipples, but do we really need them?
Yeah.
Not really. Like we're not feeding babies, but we have them. So
Exactly.
your robots have dicks,
Yeah.
but not because they want to fuck other robots.
Yeah.
They have dicks because humans used to have dicks.
Yeah.
That's how I see it,
Yeah.
and it's like a, this is poetry,
Mm.
because robots don't need dicks. That's the whole thing about it.
It's true. Yeah.
And hopefully, yeah, swap genders, sexes, whatnot.
Yeah.
Uh, Such a beautiful idea.
Yeah. Just mix things up. Change the perception of what you sit in, so you can actually explore a different level of consciousness. Because if
Hmm.
I do this, I'm going to explore a different level of consciousness of different people coming to me, and I don't know, something weird will come from it, and I'm going to love it. Like it's going to, hey, can you do this job? And I'm probably going to like it more so. And it's
Oh, dude, that's gonna be the best thing to do. Where somebody asks you, "Can we have a robot with this 5 foot dick?"
well,
You're just gonna explode out of joy from this.
well, you know what? I always had an idea. Like always said to other hard surface artists, let's have a hard surface robo cock or model robot penises, and who can do the best job. Like I don't know where these ideas come from, and I'm like, how can you make it look like? I was thinking maybe I can just make a bunch of robot penises, hard
Mhm.
surface robot penises, and have it like a gallery piece. And it's like, what is that? It's just a bunch of like penises that are shaped differently. I think I might put that as a challenge, and I'm going to do it like
Dude, I would take that to MoMA easily, like fucking center of New York. People would eat that up because
I'm going to do it, man. I'll do it.
what's valuable is the idea and the implementation, right?
Yeah.
But it's what you have to say.
Yeah. I mean, that's how like, and it'll be like this robot penis is like, like, it's worth all this money, and it's like, yes, it is because it's been thought about, and it's like
Right?
I get to be in the art scene like that. I've
At
always,
the very least, it's worth your whole life of thinking about it.
yeah, it's true. I mean, and I think so. What people don't do is as artists, I'm not sure if you like people don't value themselves as artists like a certain value that we have, and we undercut ourselves so much. So like you get, I mean, what do you think about abstract art where you have like just like a dot on a canvas and it's like worth $1 million or something like that? What do you think about that stuff?
Um, so actually, I wanted to unpackage that thought like several minutes ago when you said you want to do abstract. Like my question to you was like, what's the drive behind you wanting to make abstract art? Because what we brought up before with suprematism,
Yeah.
it is abstract. It's rather abstract. It's abstract means you value the idea more than the shape language,
Mm.
and other things like texture and material and all that, because you're able to convey the idea with minimally,
Yeah.
like less things. So when I was younger, I could not appreciate abstract art whatsoever.
Yeah.
Then I started to appreciate it because I learned about the methods of expression and what's being said and how it's being said.
Mm.
And now I also want to do abstract art, and that's why I like minimal stuff, because I see that as elegance. It's beauty. It's exactly like having this computer code that runs like tens thousands of pages
Mm.
versus when they make that code beautiful and it's like 4 lines of the same thing, right?
Mm.
like saying more with less. That's the whole goal of, and that's how I see abstract art. That's why I also want to do it. I'm actually also like planning in my head. I've been getting references to try and do this suprematic style with my twist with the hard surface.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's just general progression, right? As you age, you do get this different level, um, different level of consciousness and
Mm.
understanding of the subject,
Mm.
and you appreciate it and you want to do it.
Mm.
So that's how I see it. I want to model less, but not because I'm lazy, because I'm able to articulate it better.
Yeah.
And hopefully not only my uh, skill set and articulation improves, but also the quality of ideas. So I definitely value abstract art. I want to do it. Um, I started with age. Well, I've been doing art for like I don't know, more than 10 years, like 12 to 14 years.
Mm.
Uh, Only recently I started to value myself as an artist, but that's again only it came only when I saw myself as an artist, when I have some understanding and some ideas that I want to say.
Mm.
You don't see yourself as an artist before that. And so that's where this under evaluation comes from. Again, circling back to your post about how much people charge and stuff like that,
Mm.
like I'd love to touch on that
Yeah.
briefly.
Yeah.
Uh, Undervaluing yourself, it is dangerous, but I think I understand where it's coming from. It all comes from like you undervalue yourself when you're not an artist, you're a production artist.
Mm.
You put the value of in production language
Yeah.
on your piece.
Yeah.
When you start to put more into it and you see more in what you're saying, you will value it accordingly because you start to realize what it means.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with people undercutting other people and saying, "Yeah, I'll do that for $100. Like let's outsource this to Russia and they'll do it for 50."
Mm.
Uh, no problem,
Mm.
because all of that has, I mean, it touches with art, but only superficially.
Mm.
That usually the problem arises when you don't see other way to make money, right? Like you're like, oh well, I'd love to stay in this production industry, and that's why I want to make more. In reality, the solution is probably to shift to more artsy,
Mm.
and where you cannot put value on art, you
Yeah.
cannot put value on human life.
Mm.
Essentially, art is different forms of art and different subjects of art is always about human life,
Mm.
some way of expression, some finding these. Well, first of all, art is always a dialogue in my mind, right? Like uh, it's emission of data and receiving of data.
Mm.
So if one of them things is not in place, that's one-sided. That's a monologue. That's probably not art.
Mm.
You need to be there to appreciate it. You need consciousness to appreciate art. Can you put value on consciousness? No. Can you put value on human experience? Uh, I mean, it's usually really high, like so high that it makes it unique.
Mm.
So I feel like value is in this unique. Um, you tap into this little weird pattern that you found between your experience and other people's experience, and they value it so much that they're willing to like pay money that they've been slaving away their whole life,
Mm.
pay that because you showed them that somebody else appreciates it, right? Or you help them understand something about themselves, more or less. It's usually like that, right?
Yeah.
It's why I'm always willing to pay good money. Like I'm willing to pay much more than $20 for a movie when I know it's from a director like let's say Nolan. It's just I like him. When I know that he will bring something into my life that's invaluable. It's
Mm.
going to change me and my outlook and elevate my thinking.
Mm.
So that's when art becomes expensive.
Mm,
It's expensive, but it's, I mean, at the same time, you're willing to pay that price.
mm,
So yeah, let people fight over daily rates in production. It makes sense because that's where money is. That's where it matters. Um, and it's a funny, like the moment money starts to not matter to you, that's probably when it comes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And money doesn't matter only in pure art. Like I don't want to say traditional art, but what's the opposed to production art, like not liberal art, like paintings and sculpture and like
yeah.
fine art is what I'm saying. That's the difference. That's the reason a lot of pieces from ArtStation are not hanging in like galleries around the world. Then you always value or evaluate, estimate the amount of work, not by how much work you're going to put into it,
Mm,
but ideally by how much value it is to the customer.
yeah,
It's like how many hours will it take? A famous example. How many hours will it take to create Nike logo?
yeah,
Fucking 10 minutes,
yeah,
but it's worth millions to the client.
yeah.
So that you can never estimate this by, oh well, my rate is whatever, like $50 a day, and it's gonna take me 10 days. So here you go, $500 for this
Yeah.
work.
It's ridiculous. Yeah,
That's not right. The process of thinking needs to be your first question. I feel like when the client comes to you is you need to have a conversation with that client and find out what do they really want and how much do they actually value it,
mm,
and then you see how much involved they are and how serious they are about this
mm,
and how much they're willing to part with
mm,
for that idea and how much they value you, because when you put the value on the amount of hours you're gonna get do, um, they also look at that as your value.
mm.
You're literally valuing yourself.
Yeah,
So that's, I agree, it doesn't make sense. It starts to make more sense when your um, work is replaceable.
mm.
So
If you know that you're replaceable, and that's what you're talking about, that production,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
it's going to be really hard to value.
because the competition will eat you with your shit. Like it's impossible to compete when you know that 10 people next to you are going to do same or possibly better, and the only reason you're getting this job is because they just got to you first.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you say no, they're just going to go down the line. So I mean, then it is what it is. Make your work so unique
yeah,
that nobody else can do that,
yeah.
and then you can name your price.
Yeah, it's perfect. You can name your price, and believe it or not, you can name a good price. Like you
Right.
really can, because they can't go, "Hey, there's the next guy. Let's go to him." Believe it or not, like if you do something that no one else does, dude, you're
Yeah.
worth a lot. You are worth a lot. And people like find it crazy to even believe in themselves in such a capacity. But dude, the more you start believing in yourself, you start performing and you pull
Right.
that, you get a fire, like you pull your finger out and you're like, damn, I'm gonna make something that no one can replace
Mhm.
in this industry. And you're so totally unique and you're a unique snowflake, like but you're not a snowflake.
Sure.
Yeah.
Uh, this made me think that ideally, in the next 10 years, I'm making a prediction. In the next 50 years, let's say, not 10, that's impossible.
Mm,
I want to see estimates and quotes from the artists. And hopefully whoever listens to this takes this to heart, because
mm,
when I saw your video about this, I was inspired and I wanted to make change. And the more people hear about it, the more chance that we can make that change. So what I want to see is people not evaluating work by the hours, but some sort of different token. Like stop expressing your work in this was done in this and this amount of hours, and
speech.
let's evaluate work by yeah, like let's evaluate work by some other sort of like other value,
Mm.
and put your price on it. It's like inventing your own Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say that it's worth that much, and we're gonna start using that.
Mm.
So I mean, we're not that we can decentralize this shit because
Yeah.
if everybody starts paying you instead of evaluating like this work was not 10 hours, but this work was worth five Mike Nashes,
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
and that's just going to be like okay, that's a completely different value, that's a different market.
Mm.
We can do that.
We've
I hope it happens.
Well,
Like
we have the power. Look, no one, everyone's coming up to me. It's like, no one ever talks about this stuff. Then let's start talking, right?
yeah,
Everyone knows an actor will get like
yeah.
maybe a good actor will
Let's
get
start
$5 to $10 million. Like, why as artists, why couldn't we sell a piece for $1 million? Why? Why not? Like, why not? Like, why couldn't we be like, hey, I'm going to produce this piece? Maybe not digital. Digital doesn't seem to hold as much value, but say if you printed it or you printed it in metal and you go, well, I'm only going to make
Mhm.
one of these, right? And I worked on it for or a year. I worked on it for a year and I
Right.
want to sell it for $1 million a year. Like let's say Michelangelo,
Not only you worked in this
right?
not only you worked in this for a year,
Every,
you were probably like, I don't know, 25, 26 at that time, like 30, whatever, right? It's all the years of experience before that
yeah,
that goes into, I mean, this debate is very popular that you go to a doctor and you don't pay for an hour at the doctor. You pay for his fucking tuition at college.
mm,
That's what you're actually paying for. That's why the lawyers, like, that's why it's expensive
yeah,
because of all the knowledge.
yeah,
Let's appreciate knowledge, and let's appreciate all of my like nervous breakdowns and crying in the corner at night, like because I couldn't
yeah,
couldn't like model something in Fusion,
yeah,
and I put very high price on that.
yeah, yeah,
I don't put high price on the model itself. I don't give a fuck.
yeah.
But I want who is gonna pay me back for all the moral like suffering that I have endured, like doubting myself and having anxiety. Let's heal. Like let the money heal you, but like have enough money for that to heal.
Yeah.
If you just sprinkle a little bit of money on top of your pain, it's not gonna help.
It will help because you get
Like
time to rest and think and contemplate.
yeah, you get a break. You
Yeah,
get a break,
yeah,
which is needed. You get like a fresh breath of fresh air, right? With enough to keep you going. But everybody's striving for the same idea. Make so much money that you can do whatever the fuck you want.
well, they
Th-
say we're all going to be our own.
That's the limit.
Yeah, we're all going to be our own bosses in like 50 years or whatever. Like we're all going to be like,
Yeah.
even the cleaner that goes and cleans something is going to have his own cleaning company.
Yeah.
Like, there's not going to be,
Ideally,
yeah, no one can do his stuff, right? No one. Think about it.
no.
No one. No one's
And
even.
no one has done that ever since either. And probably will not because he was also product of his environment and his thought, and
Yeah.
it's going to evolve into something else. It's going to be better than Giger, and weirder than Giger, but it's not going to be him.
So really, by that understanding, I'm not in fear because I think it was like before the reason why I didn't do it is because I had insecurity that
Right.
I didn't believe in myself enough. Like I did not like really
I
believe in
agree.
myself enough. Like no one can replace you. You're like I think when your mum tells you you're so special and beautiful, it's because you fucking are. Like you are. You're a miracle of creation. The fact that
Yeah.
you're around here and the fact that um you came alive, like it's crazy. And you're not so random. They prove that that the actual female egg picks the male sperm.
I saw something about this recently, and like they like to think that it's simultaneous. Like
It's all random. Like
it,
yeah,
it still picks the sperm that actually made it. Like it doesn't pick the sperm that got left behind.
yeah.
But it does pick, which is I've never heard that before.
I mean,
Uh,
like
that's crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. It's insane. Like so, we're pretty. The fact that we're here and we're doing this stuff, it's insane. Like, never have an insecurity that someone can replace you if you're fully expressing yourself and you're fully working hard. But if you're in a studio just being a monkey, yeah, you're going to get replaced because that's all you're going to be as a monkey, a worker monkey, and you're going to do that. but you can break out from that when you start expressing yourself. And I think a lot of people, I'm not sure, have you ever worked in a studio? Did you
Yeah.
like it?
Well, I mean, you like it for other reasons. You never like work in the studio for, oh, they letting me express myself as an artist and it's the best thing ever. It's never like that.
I think you probably could get a position where you would like it, to believe it or not. But
Yeah.
when, um, so like, I think it's like going through your teenage thing, puberty, right? I think there's a time and place for someone to go and work in a studio, and
Hmm.
you got to get the hell out. Like I did it for 2.5 years. I got out, and I was like, I'm not doing this. Every day I went in, I'm like, it's all right. Like, this is, I know I'm not going to really grow within the studio, and you have to accept that. You shouldn't fool yourself into thinking you're going to go up in this really high trajectory and kick some ass. You might if you put things in place, maybe.
It makes me like note that whatever we're talking about, I fully understand, and hopefully people understand that it's only applicable at certain stages of life, like what you're saying. Like, yeah, like go and do your own business, go and be your best self. But it's also there's time and place for everything. So if you feel like you're there, if you feel like you got rid of all of your insecurities and you're mentally like prepared yourself, then yeah, it's time. Like this is be time to be brave about it and face your demons and whatnot.
Yeah,
But also, like, if you're 14 and like listening to this, which I'm sure some people are, like, I mean, maybe wait, like, that's not the time. Like,
yeah,
just have that mindset, be aware of it,
mm.
and things will come. But the reason I'm mentioning like the younger generation is I started to I don't have kids of my own, but I started thinking about it,
Mm.
not having kids, but like just in general, like the cycle, right? Like we are here to be replaced by the next generation, and the next generation is going to be replaced by the next generation. And whatever you have to say is going to get diluted so much, it's going to get lost. So
Mm.
the stronger the voice you have, the longer it will stay. Like Giger stays like so many generations through. That's your lineage, right?
Yeah,
Uh, I'm not scared to um, express myself or explain myself or teach or give out secrets about like my heart surface thinking or whatnot, because I see that as getting people familiar with what I like.
mm.
So like I'm literally building that audience. uh, I mean, they kind of say that if you want to become famous or like big, make it big, you need to feed your audience from like the early stages with your bullshit. Like pick the audience of like 14 years old, and they're gonna grow up on your stuff, and they're gonna grow up liking your stuff.
Mm.
And then, because for you, 5 years is not a huge change. You're
Mm.
just evolving your skill set and you're looking for your voice. But those people are going to turn from 14 to 20, 21, 22,
Yeah,
pretty conscious. And they're going to grow up liking your stuff.
mm.
You're still around to get that money from them. I mean, basically.
Mm.
So I believe in spreading the information as much as I can and sharing it with everyone,
Mm.
because I got rid of the insecurities of, oh, like there's something that I treasure so much that only I can do, but that's a what's the word? Um, it's a like it doesn't work. I forgot the word. Like it doesn't work because if you treasure it so much, if it's so unique, uh, um, if you give it away, you shouldn't be scared that it's going to be copied and stolen and replicated. Because I mean, I thought you said that it's unique, right? But turns out everybody can do that. So it's not really like that. It's more about in your head and your insecurities about this. Totally agree with sharing whatever you get to say.
Well, no one looks like your artwork, and no one looks like my artwork, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so like when a client comes to you, think about it for a second. Nothing looks like your artwork, and so I mean, you're pretty damn unique then already. So your value's there, and it's their choice You just have to have the balls to say, hey, pay me this. And you'd be like, before you actually say your rate, you got to go, I don't care if I lose this job.
For sure.
I don't care. Like this.
And you need to be able to articulate why and
Mm,
how you're building that value.
yeah.
And sometimes what it takes is actually pulling that out of the client and having the client tell it to you yourself.
Mm,
You literally go and ask the question, why did you pick me?
yep.
What makes me
Yeah.
so valuable? Explain your vision of my value and let's put a price on that rather than me just saying the price.
Yeah. Yeah.
And several times when I've done that, I've lost the client
Mm,
because they didn't come to me because they valued my work. And I, of course, I wouldn't want the client either way that doesn't value my work. I don't want to be a pencil,
yeah.
right, like in their hands.
Mm.
Um, so asking the question of like, why are you talking to me right now?
So yeah.
Unfortunately, like in other industries, salaries and stuff are like more open, right? And you kind of know the ballpark. You start to know our ballparks and stuff here. It's this problem will never fully go away, in my opinion, because again, evaluating art is hard, and you're doing art. So I mean, never speak about this job from the point of view of art. Like always speak about it from the point of view of production.
Mm,
When you talk to people and like let's say it's $1 billion company that's hiring you, right?
mm,
It's rarely that $1 billion company is directly hiring you. It's probably a studio within that $1 billion company that's a smaller budget, and they were, you look that it's $1 billion company, but in fact it's actually a smaller studio. So you need to be mindful about that.
mm,
And it's going to be extremely hard to convince them that like, hey, by the way, you still have billions. Like, why not allocate it? That's
mm.
not your job to tell them how to allocate their money.
Yeah. Okay.
So gotta have some sort of resources to
Yeah. Like
manipulate.
know what the project scope is. Like know what the project's going to be. Like where it's going to be. So I mean, I should have been aware that where Horizon Zero Dawn, where it should have been, I should have looked at. The thing is, why I judged the company is like I didn't like Killzone, the last Killzone. I
Mm,
was like, oh, last
mm,
one's crap. Maybe they're like on a downward
mhm,
trajectory. It didn't go too well. But I like the Killzone too, and I've only liked one of their games. And then I thought, like I didn't really like the art style of all their games either. I was like, they're probably just gonna cock everything up, and they
mhm,
pulled through. So I'm like, and it's like, just pay attention to the project that you're working on. Really pay attention to it. Don't like my advice is don't think people can pull things off and just like knock it out of the park. And believe it or not, like they really can. And you're always going to get in life, you only need a few good swings like to actually be like financially sound from what you do. And you really can make a good living for yourself. Like you know Tim Ferriss,
mhm,
like he said there's like a company that makes jeans and they
mhm.
make them only once a year, and that's how they make all their income. But they're so expensive, right? So I mean, you could do the same thing with your art. That's what I was saying. You could, but it's like, oh, you can't do that. We're all production artists. No, you're not. You just think you are this thing. You could do whatever the hell you want. You can just do it and find out where your value is. Build your Instagram. Get 500,000 followers. Be like Beeple. He's got 1 million followers, right? Like,
Right, that's crazy.
dude, he's making money somehow. He's making good money. Trust me, he is. And he's loving what he's doing. He's actually loving it. So he wakes up every day and go, what kind of political stuff can I get up to?
The thing is, yeah, like all the people that made it, they all made it from loving what they do.
Yeah, gotta love it.
Nobody made a lot of like nobody made their living. Let's not use a lot of money because that's subjective, but
Mm,
nobody became happy and worry free about the money from not liking what they do.
yeah,
They actually had to abandon a lot of stuff, face the problem, and that's when they became creative about their process. It's just like stop. It doesn't mean like let's everybody like quit office jobs like tomorrow.
yeah,
That's not how it works. Like you need to apply uh, like thought to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to keep that in mind. Like, what do you want to do in 10 years? Do you still want to do that?
Mm.
Or you're probably not even capable of understanding that you wouldn't want to do that. I wasn't thinking that 10 years ago that I would want to change something or start a company or do something like that. It makes me think, well, shit, like, what am I not realizing now that I'm going to realize in 10 years?
Mm.
Try to project it, try to predict it, make a best prediction that you can, stay open to possibilities, and make decisions that are like rational and
And
well thought.
value yourself. Like that's what like it essentially is. It's like we talk about money, but the thing is the goal is not the money, is the goal is the art, and then the money should come from the art. The thing is you
Yeah,
don't want to be working your whole life and getting paid peanuts for it. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be financially sound from this. Like you want to be secure. You don't want to stress about these types of things and being taken letting yourself being taken advantage of. That's the worst thing, and being clueless about that. You're not seeking the money aspect, you're seeking the expression and the freedom to do it, but you need money to do that too. You
and it's
actually do.
okay to make money, keep making money, like on the side or on the main job, whatever, until you found what you want to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you have to suffer. You can still work the job. It's just a lot of people, like uh, a lot of people think that um, they need to be the office job is gonna get them big, famous, whatever. I really doubt it. Like it's still the art that you did probably personally
Mm.
that's gonna be make you more closer to being a true artist.
Yeah. Because if you truly express what you want, like that's the saying, like if you truly do what you love, the money should come, right? But the
Yeah,
thing is you have to talk about money because you're like, well, that's a motivation for people. Let's be honest. Let's not like talk shit. People love money and people want to make money. Like, let's be honest. And so, but if it's your prime focus of doing it, um, to actually do your personal work, but client work, look, if a company is coming to you and they're going to give you a certain amount of money, let's be honest here. You're not doing the client work because for the love of it, you're doing it for the bloody money. Like
yeah,
it's keeping you afloat. It is keeping you afloat. A lot of times you've done client jobs. You're like, I don't want to do this client job, but you're doing it for the money. So yeah,
yeah.
be conscious of that. Ask for what you're actually worth, and ask for a decent amount. So you don't have to be like you're asking for nothing. So you're having to like do so many jobs to make up for your living expenses and all this stuff. And then in your spare time, go and kick ass. And then it like things should flow to you. They should, if you're going to do a good job. Just like people, somehow he's just like went fuck it. I'm going to do all this political stuff, and people
Hmm.
were like, hey, you're doing all this awesome stuff. Let me give you the money to keep you doing this stuff because we love to see you do more of this thing. And
Exactly.
that's how it works. It really is.
I think that's beautiful. Like,
Mm.
we can totally cut it right here.
Yeah,
Like,
we've been talking for. I
that's a
was gonna
perfect
say,
spot to end this with.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say we've been talking for a while, and we're both getting tired. We can mentally see ourselves
Yeah,
break down, and going do 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 do. But
I got visibly older, like from this.
we should.
But
Yeah,
it was a great talk, though.
yeah,
Like,
man. Like if you guys like this, like and subscribe and all that fun stuff. But yeah, it's been awesome. It's been awesome chatting, and yeah, I'll cut it there and see everyone later. And you can, if you want to say bye and all that stuff. And
yeah, definitely
yeah,
see you later.
but yeah.